Some of the content of Patriots Unfiltered may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The world's original podcast.
Welcome to Patriots Unfiltered.
Someone clipped off the part anyway of Evan's,
Yeah.
recommendation of power.
Yeah. Although a lot
I
of
came
people,
across right. Yeah, people don't.
some people
don't know ball.
they don't think that you were genuine.
Oh.
They can't believe like you didn't mention mesh.
I think Drake May had a good rookie year. Good rookie year.
You look at him as a son.
Evan does this on he goes right on to the next gen.
He's doing it during the game. Yeah, next to the game. I see him with his little thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what
are you doing over there, Evan? There's a game going on.
Don't make me do an exercise that I did with Mac Jones and break.
I would never make you do exercise.
No.
Not once did Evan mention pin pull yesterday. Moment was too big for the young man.
See another one that
Not ball millers.
that's not basic install. Okay, Hardo.
With leak,
Okay,
right?
That's,
leaks.
that's not
Alright.
basic install. You got to be a ball knower.
Okay, pin pole boy.
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Presented by Toyota's official website for deals, buyatoyota.com.
All right, welcome to Patriots Unfiltered. It is Thursday here at Gillette Stadium. We're still basking in the glow of the Mike Vrabel hire. And Evan, it's Paul, it's Deuce, it's me, it's Matt in the booth. But I guess our show was on the Pat McAfee show briefly.
Yeah, they were like,
That was pretty cool.
Patriots Unfiltered?
Yeah.
Sure.
This is
For
what? Patriots Unfiltered. He knows. He knows.
Everybody knows. It's
Yeah.
the world's original podcast.
No, but when
For some
Vrabel,
reason, they focused on Vrabel and not us.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
right?
can't believe it.
No hug.
It took a brand new head coach being hired for us to make it to the big time. But no, it was cool to see us
Some of us
mentioned
have
there.
been made fun of on the McAfee show in the past as well.
That's right. I forgot
Some
about
of
that.
us.
That would be me.
I think it might have
He,
been
ma-
both of
he
us.
made fun of my accent.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
When was this?
during the summer and
it preseason one?
preseason games.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. You don't have really that much of an accent.
Yeah, I mean, it's there, but
Yeah.
I didn't think it was certainly not as bad as it was when I went to BU.
Yeah.
So
So
I was
got better.
inundated.
that was fun, and thanks to one of our listeners for helping me on that. I
Yeah.
didn't know.
Yeah, I went and found it.
Yeah.
Had to scrub through a little bit, but
Yeah. Good stuff.
yeah.
So that was a big day on Monday. We talked a lot about Tuesday, and we're going to continue talking about what's next. Offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, what's going on. Like right now, all we know is Mike Vrabel's the head coach. You know?
No, I kind of like it. Like I like
Yeah.
that he's just kind of gone into the cave. We're not hearing any reports, and yeah, I'm sure they're grinding away trying to put everything into place. But I would assume, as teams get out of the playoffs and the All-Star games start to happen, you'll start to see guys cut loose, and then maybe you'll see some movement. That'll be the next stuff to start to fall.
Yeah, because the Senior Bowl and Shrine Bowl is end of January.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
next week, but the week after.
Evan's
that.
gearing
Right.
up.
So you got to send people there.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm hoping that the head coach will be there for us.
Yeah.
I
You think he should be there?
Yeah.
Well, if he's going to have as much of a hand in personnel as what is being reported that he's going to have a hand in personnel, then yeah, I think he should be there.
This chest plate down there. Did you ask him about that?
I
I
did.
thought that was funny.
I did.
Get his chest plate,
You
go
gonna
down
break
to
out
Mobile,
break
and
out the pads?
start engaging with
I
some
mean, I'm
linemen.
not going to make a big deal out of it if he's not there, but
Yeah,
Oh,
maybe
I
he's
see
getting
what you-
engaged.
I see what you did there.
So
thank
you know,
Thank you.
my impression of those All-Star games is it's not first-round people. It's the later round guys that you are there for.
Yeah, usually there might be some back end of the first round guys that sneak in to the Senior Bowl. For example, last year Tyler Guyton, the tackle for the Cowboys, was a Senior Bowl guy, and he went right at the in the 20s somewhere in the first round. So sometimes you get those types of guys, but obviously it's mostly seniors, so none of the early declares for the most part are there. So and those are a lot of the guys that go at the top of the draft, right?
Yeah.
Are the guys that are true juniors. Now Penix was there last year. Now that I'm trying to
Yeah.
think about it, but he was a quarterback, so it's a little different. You're wearing the red jersey, you're not getting
Yeah.
hit. But
I
yeah.
heard him with the Shrine. They're bringing in juniors now, or did I
yeah,
hear
they're
that?
allowed. They're kind of allotting like a certain number of spots to juniors now for the game, just to get some of the hype, for the game up
Sure.
a little bit more by getting some of the higher end guys.
Yeah.
I was just looking at some of the names. I found a website that had just had them ranked kind of the Senior Bowl guys, which I mean, you guys all know Jalen Milroe, but Nick Scourton, who's an edge, A&M.
Yep.
Walter Nolan, DL. Ariante Ursary, guy.
Yeah, a lot of those late day one.
Josh Connerly from Oregon.
Yeah, those
guys.
late day one, early day two receivers and tackles often go to Mobile, to the Senior Bowl. So like last year we saw, Kingsley Suamatia was there and Tyler Guyton was there, and those types of players. So we'll see that again this year.
I mean, Sebastian Vollmer rose up the ranks a little bit
Kyle
from
Duggar.
his performance at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
Is it weird that Shedeur Sanders is going to the Shrine Bowl? That seems a little strange for arguably the top quarterback.
Well, it's at the Star in Dallas, so I think that's a big part of it. Not because of the head coaching job, but just because of the obvious connection there. Yeah. So he committed early in the process to go to the Shrine Bowl, so I'm not sure if he's going to do anything. He might just be interviewing and meeting with teams there. I don't know if he's actually going to practice.
Okay. Yeah. Coaching search for other teams. I guess Aaron Glenn has said the Jets are his number one destination.
He played there, right?
Yeah. Aaron
he played there.
Yeah. Yep.
And like a lot of Ben Johnson to the Raiders talk lately, because I kind of thought.
Well,
Ben
I wonder
Johnson
where that's coming from. I don't know if it's coming from Ben Johnson.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know where it's coming from. That's good. That's a good point.
Because when you look at the destinations like the Raiders, if I'm a head coach, I'm looking at. There's a lot of factors. Obviously, money is a big one. But like, what's their current status? What do I think we can get to? Like, where can we get? And everybody mentions the facilities and all that, and that's important, but not as important as all the other stuff.
It's a weird roster. I mean, you got two tight ends. I mean, offensively, that's what's interesting to me is how he would go there and what the plan would be. It's kind of a blank slate, I would say.
I would wonder what their plan is at quarterback, because that's the number
First
one
piece,
thing.
yeah.
I think I was kind of thinking Ben Johnson would be interested in the Jacksonville job, because Trevor Lawrence is a guy that I'm guessing Ben Johnson probably feels I can
Brian
work
Thomas,
with him.
yeah.
He's got some experience already. I can sort of hit the ground running. I can help him fulfill his potential. He's got some good weapons.
Yeah.
With the Raiders, I don't think it's a bad situation, but you can't argue that there's no quarterback there, and it's been a train wreck. I mean, the Jets are the punching bag for everybody. The Raiders have been just as bad.
Yeah.
Say over the last 15 years or whatever you want to call it. I mean, they really struggled.
Have they had a crack at a top quarterback in the draft? Because the Jets did, and they blew it.
Yeah.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
The Jets had Darnold. The Jets had Zach Wilson.
But
Mark
have the
Sanchez.
Raiders had a crack at a top quarterback?
I mean,
Since Jamarcus Russell, I can't think of one off the top of my head that they've drafted high.
Yeah.
They've just had
Derek
free
Carr
agent.
Carr was a second round
He was
pick.
an early second round
Garoppolo.
pick.
I mean, they were kind of these free agent cast-off guys.
Yeah.
They've been going through.
I mean, Derek Carr was the quarterback there for a long time, and he was a high second round pick, but he was there for 8 years?
That's
I
true.
would say.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he's been the guy there for a while.
So that's why I think maybe the Jets are a little bit more looked at as a joke, because they had a shot at, some of the top quarterbacks, and they blew it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just hard, I think, for the team like the Raiders, where maybe you're always good enough to not be in the top 10, but you're never bad enough to get down into that
that's
area
one of
where
the
you really
problems,
get a chance, and you're
But they
kind of
see
stuck.
they have though. They've been dreadfully bad. Now they haven't
just bad draft years.
they haven't taken the quarterbacks, but they've had a lot of bust first round picks.
Yeah.
Darius
Yeah.
Hayward Bay, Jamarcus Russell are two of the biggest busts of all
I
time.
mean, but even go
Who's the
recent
pass
like
rusher guy,
Tyree
too?
Wilson.
yeah.
It's been
Yeah.
kind of that was
I told you that.
He was a top 10 pick, right?
The
Yeah.
Mayock,
Like 8 or
years,
something,
those were
8
The
or
pretty bad,
Mayock years
too.
were awful.
They Clellan Farrell.
Yeah,
too.
that was the one I was
There's
thinking.
another
Yeah,
one.
Yep.
they just started to prioritize power off the edge, and those guys just were not high end pass rushers. They would just push people around and stuff like that, and you see that in the college game a lot. But then when you get to the pros and you're playing against adults, it's not as easy to bull rush guys and move guys and things like that.
And then McCarthy, it looks like the Bears are interested in him, and obviously he might be interested in them with their situation. Cowboys, I don't know if this Sanders stuff is going to happen. That would be wild if it did. It would be like a weekly soap opera down there. It would be
I think
great.
that would be
It would be
fantastic.
great for the league and great for the fans.
Well, I just think it'd be great for whatever happens.
Yeah.
Right.
You
Good
know,
or bad.
It would
Yeah.
be spectacular either way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll
That'd
be
be
a
a lot of- that'd be a lot
spectacular
of fun.
fail or a
Oh, man.
spectacular success.
The cowboy hats that he'd bust out, I'm sure would be phenomenal.
That would be fun.
Oh yeah, that would be fun.
I'd sign up for that.
Yep.
Do you think though he would try to get, if it did happen, he would try to get Shedeur somehow? I mean, would that be a priority for him when in the interview process with Jerry? Like,
Well, that's
how can we get my kid?
to me
here?
that makes it even more intriguing. Like
Yeah.
what effect does Sanders going to the Cowboys have on the draft? Are we going to have a draft where it's going to be an Elway or Eli Manning situation?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I think it's possible for both those Colorado guys, him and Travis Hunter, that they try to control a little bit where they go, just based off of vibes of, I don't really want to go to Cleveland,
Right.
just throwing that out there. And, teams like that.
Tennessee.
Yeah, maybe
right?
even Tennessee. But
Yeah.
the Cowboys are at 12 in the draft.
That's tough to orchestrate one of those from 12.
Yeah, so they would have to trade up a pretty significant haul to move up there. So it's been done. It's not. It wouldn't be the first time, but
And then there's all this talk about Bill Belichick. He doesn't have a signed contract and all this stuff. And
It's great. It's
you
more,
know,
more
your-
great drama.
Your guy, Mike Lombardi, felt the need to come to
don't
his
get mad.
defense
Don't
again.
get Lombardi mad at the show.
Yeah.
Poorly.
One thing I'll say, to me, there's no way in hell that Bill Belichick is not going to coach at UNC this season. Now, next season is a whole different thing, but I don't think he
I'm not as strong as Fred is. on
really.
that.
There's no it would be such a bad look, such a bad look. The one you didn't have any options, or you felt you didn't have any options. This team gives you that option, and then you're going to leave them at the altar. I just don't see him doing that.
That's just poor to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just
People
don't.
already being hired.
Yeah, now
kids
next
transferring
year,
in.
everything's on the table.
I think you're probably right. I
Yeah.
just wouldn't say definitively. I
Oh,
think there's a reason that all this
yeah.
talk has been out there.
Oh well, people want it's news. It's clicks. It's sure you talk about it, but I just don't see him doing that.
Well, I mean, I think a little bit. I mean, I don't know if
Unless
people are,
North Carolina says, you know what, we're sick of this. You're out.
I mean, I just think that the thing with the Jets, I resigned as the HC, the NYJ. Like, it's there's a little bit of a
proven he's
a little-
willing to
little
do
bit of a
things that are
precedent.
unconventional.
But that's different.
Lombardi's
That's
gonna get
different.
so mad at
Yeah,
us.
I can't. That's not an apples to
maybe
apples
he'll spell a
comparison.
word right in his response this time.
Oh, so those are the things we haven't heard about, like what New Orleans is leaning toward, right? Or have we?
I mean, they've had a ton of interviews too. There have been a lot of interviews and a lot of requests for interviews.
Yeah. Jets.
Kellen Moore, I think, just got requested by Dallas.
Yep.
Yeah.
Put him in, and there's some urgency there because Philly's still playing, and if Philly wins over the weekend, then you're not going to be able to get him for a little bit. This is your window to talk to him.
Are you surprised at all that Mike McCarthy's getting immediate interest to go right back?
A little bit.
I am.
I am a
Yeah.
little bit. Yeah.
I mean, his record is good. I just don't think he's a very good coach.
Yeah.
I think his record's good. I think he's good with quarterbacks, and they have a young quarterback in Chicago that needs
Yep.
guidance. Like he doesn't need Ben Johnson necessarily right now. He needs somebody to put his arm
Big
over
Papa
him
Bear.
and be like, "This is what we're gonna do," and this is how you're gonna do it. And
Yeah.
No? Yeah,
No,
absolutely right.
I mean, do you think that's unique because of what Chicago needs, or is it a?
well, because they've interviewed him and Pete Carroll, so it
they're
seems to
looking
me
for-
like the two favorites for that job are a steady hand, a rah guy, someone that's gonna make Caleb feel good about himself.
According to this research thing I get from the league, Joe Brady might be going to the Jaguars.
Yeah, that has been
Yeah.
that has been talked about.
Him and
yeah.
Liam Cohn have been talked about a lot. The Buccaneers offensive coordinator for the Jaguars job. So
Yeah.
those are two guys that both kind of the similar people.
And then Salah's picking up steam too.
Where?
Jaguars as well.
Okay.
And Cowboys.
Cowboys.
Interesting.
Yeah. Pete Carroll.
Yeah, I don't
Interviewed
understand
with the Bears and the
Pete Carroll,
Raiders.
Mike McCarthy stuff. Like, I mean, I think Evan's reasoning is very sound, but I don't.
I don't
That
really
wouldn't
understand
excite
the
me
Pete
at
Carroll
all.
stuff.
The Pete Carroll, I don't either. What's
Yeah.
the?
If
What's
I were
the,
a Bears
what's the
fan, that wouldn't
plan?
excite me at
Yeah.
all.
Like he's
Yeah.
gonna be here. How old is he now? Like 74, 75? I mean, he's old. He was the oldest coach in the league.
I mean, I guess if you hired someone like that and it worked, then maybe you get a couple years out of him, and now
like
okay,
a
so
young-
it worked, and
Yeah.
Caleb Williams is now on the track, so now I can bring someone else in, kind of like what I talked about with Ben Johnson, or you having a young offensive coordinator that you bring in for Drake May right now, when it works, and everybody's like, well, then you're going to lose him, he's going to be a head coach, but it worked, so Drake May is sort of kind of offensive coordinator proof now.
Yeah, I mean,
know?
I would get it if it was
It wouldn't
with
excite me at all.
McCarthy, where he's an offensive guy and he has
Yeah.
experience with quarterbacks. I get it, but with Pete Carroll being a defensive guy, but maybe to your point, there's a high-level OC who then is kind of the head coach.
McCarthy's another one of those like old school West Coast guys too. That's kind of boring to me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is an old school West Coast guy, but I get the McCarthy love because he comes with an offense, right? He's going to install an offense. He's going to run the quarterback like that. I totally understand. I don't get Pete Carroll where he's a defensive minded 75-year-old head coach. Like I don't see where
He's
you're
a
going.
young 75.
Young.
That's true.
He's got a lot of energy. He's
does.
got a lot of energy.
Choose that gum.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on. But to our original point, and when it comes back to the Patriots, these Senior Bowl, the Shrine Bowl are coming up fast, and they're going to have to send people to it.
Yeah.
Besides Mike Vrabel.
I mean, I think that's part of why you keep the scouting staff on board. I mean, there's just
Yeah.
it's impossible to completely hire a new staff in 3 weeks, right?
Yeah, you guys have been to these games, right? No, you have never been.
never
been.
No,
I mean,
so
I've
just
I've
Evan.
been to a few.
I
Just
watched
Evan?
the practices.
So, no, I don't mean the game itself. I mean like the week.
Yeah.
How many coaches go?
Quite a few. I would.
So that's typical.
yeah.
And I'm not
Yeah.
talking about for the Patriots. I'm talking about league wide.
Yeah,
There's
quite-
a lot of coaches.
quite a few.
It's not
I-
just personnel staffs.
look. It's
It's a networking event.
it's
Makes sense.
if the combine's spring break for the NFL, then the Senior Bowl is like sort of like a warm up to spring break. I don't know. I don't have a good analogy there, but it's similar where a lot of it
Will
is,
would probably have something for that.
where a lot of it is
pregame.
networking and
Bro.
going out to the bars in Mobile until 2:00 in the morning, and that's where a lot of the things start to hatch. A lot of the things in the off season start to hatch. So a lot of it is that, and then there are the hardos. Mike Tomlin every year is like down on the field, like in the practice, even if he's not coaching the team, he somehow finds his way, in the middle of drills and things like that. And so there are the scouting hardos that will go and really watch the practices. And as we know, the Patriots have in the past put a lot of emphasis on how they do against the competition that they're facing at the Senior Bowl, especially. So
Do a lot of unemployed coaches go?
yeah, I mean Vrabel was there last year as an unemployed coach before he got
I
the
think
Browns.
Josh McDaniels might be there.
He could.
Yeah.
A lot of networking, a lot of, just seeing what's up and, what might be available and opportunities and things like that. And even just talking to coaches that maybe you have interest in teaming up with down the line, which is something that I thought of with Vrabel when this all started to go down was, he's probably there talking to OC candidates, talking to DC candidates, things like that.
Yep. So that's coming up. Combine will be at the end of March.
End of February.
End of February into March. Yep. And then, of course, the draft's coming up. So getting ready for all of that.
Me and Ed were planning out some of our writing, all the mock drafts and videos and everything. So yeah, no, it'll be. I gotta be honest. I'm so re-energized right now with Vrabel coming in here, and just each day. And I think it's also just the respect around the league that he clearly has, both with players that played under him, or I think even just coaches. And they took a swing last year on Gerard, who was kind of an unknown commodity, but just it just feels like they're have an innate level of respect now that what Mike Vrabel can do here, and I think it's been just a big kick in the pants.
Well,
I feel like it's been good.
And that's the thing, we say, well, are you surprised that McCarthy is getting attention? And I am, but then at the same time, you look at a team like Chicago, for example, which was in such disarray when it came to coaching last year.
No, that's a good point.
You
Fred.
just need somebody to land the plane,
Right?
And when you get somebody with experience, at least you can get some stability and order to your franchise.
I mean, I know we have been critical of Sean McDermott at times, but with Joe Brady getting interviews now, and they're consistently good. Like, I mean, are they? They got to still get over the hump and get a Super Bowl, but at the same time, I think that's what he's done in Buffalo. He's established a program. They, I don't know if they're maybe kind of coordinator proof at this point, but at least on the defensive side of the ball, they've been personnel proof a little bit, and I think that's what every team is hoping for, just that we can withstand the inevitable change that happens with coaching and personnel, and we have an identity that, and granted, a lot of that is based on the quarterback, but still, I think, defensively they showed this year they've been able to withstand some of the turnover with guys who have really defined who their defense has been the last 5-6 years.
We will have picks today. We'll be doing the
Gotta
divisional round. Should we also pick the national championship game?
I think we have to.
I'm prepared.
Okay, let's do that.
I got the spread for that one too.
Okay, we'll do that.
I watched the whole Ohio State game last. I was telling the guys, like, I haven't watched a full college football game in a long time, but that Ohio State game I was in the whole way. I mean, it was really fun to watch. So
all right.
What do you think of Mike, Evan?
I stayed up till like
our
11 o'clock
boy's
at
all
night.
grown up. He watched a college game.
Couple edge rushers in that game for you, Mike.
Oh, I know.
Jack Sawyer.
Yeah.
Good
No,
player.
he is. I mean, and it obviously ended the game, and I mean, what a story with being the former, Aller's former roommate and all that. But I still go back to what I think of college football, which is just so.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Fast and loose and unpredictable, and I'm interested to see Bill coach in that environment where mistakes, penalties, like the things he hates that I feel like he tries
Life
to
in general.
stamp out are such a big part of all these games where it's just big plays and then there's a penalty and it's all over the place.
I love
it's
the
crazy.
He'll bench the running back for fumbling, and the boost will be like, Bill, we're paying him $5 million a year in NIL money. He's got to play.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if you knew this, Deuce, but Jack Sawyer grew up an Ohio State Buckeyes fan, and that's a big story.
Okay,
It's a
so
big
Is that right down the street?
Now,
probably?
now that's where I sort of go on your
I'm
side.
like, come
I,
on, like,
a
give me
lot
a
of these
break.
guys that play college football love the school that they're playing for. I don't need to know, but I just think it was kind of cool that Ewers and Sawyer were roommates and they sort of busted each other's balls after the game. And I was
Texas
wondering,
fans did not like that.
that's what I was going to ask. It's exactly what I was going to say. Would that bug you if you were a Texas fan that like the game's over and he's like not laughing about it? But I mean, the kid was devastated, but sort of recognized that it's my friend that did that. Like.
Yeah.
So is that real? Like Texas fans were like, up in
Oh
arms
yeah,
about
well
that?
I mean, look, Ewers is not good, and I'm probably gonna
coming out.
regret this in like 2 years when he has a good.
He's not an NFL.
He's not good,
No,
and
he's a good college guy, not an NFL coach, quarterback, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're watching the tape of that game, and I'm like, Arch Manning wasn't better than this. Like
So my brother and I had a long talk about that.
Find it hard to believe, but in college you pay your dues and you wait your turn, and that's how a lot of those schools work. And with Sarkisian, but I don't know. I don't really care about Quinn Ewers.
I think that Sark really showed a lot of loyalty to Ewers, and in that sport in particular, college football, but college athletics in general, you don't see that either way. You don't see the players have the loyalty to the program, and you don't see the coaches have the loyalty to the players.
Yeah.
So it was kind of refreshing to see that, but you wonder if he cost himself there, because if Arch Manning played the whole year, he played a couple of games, when Ewers got hurt. If he played the whole year, how much better might the offense have been?
What is he, a redshirt sophomore now?
Yeah, he'll be his
So
third,
he'll have 2 years.
he'll have his third year coming up.
So he'll be the starter next year.
Yeah. Well,
And
he is like the
and
leader
he's
in
mobile.
NIL.
He's not like he can run.
Yeah.
So they do have a package in there for him to run the ball a little bit on some zone reads and things like that. And Ewers is a statue. So
It's funny, Eli and Peyton were such pocket passers, and yet Archie was the ultimate scrambler.
He's much more like
He's like his grandfather.
Yeah, in that respect.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
I like that.
much more like that. But he's a talented kid. You can tell just obviously he's very fundamentally sound and all that kind of stuff because he's been coached by quarterbacks his whole life. So
And the fact that he was willing to stay there for 2 years too, without playing.
Yeah.
I mean, he played a little this year, but obviously not being the starter.
I just think, like, for somebody like me who's totally the casual of casual college football fans, I was invested. Like, I'm invested in this playoff. I'm interested. These are good teams. You get in. It's not like you have 2 games to watch them when they had the semifinal. Now you get to watch a few games with these guys. And I think
that means something.
Yeah, like we start to become a
Not
little
just
bit
a
more
boldie.
familiar with the players, and I've started to see, a thing I've always hated is like, well, he's a Ohio State middle linebacker. I mean, that's the thing, right? But you start to see why people kind of connect all those players. Like, I always try to look at guys individually. I'm like, well, what's the big deal? He's an Ohio State middle linebacker, but you start to see that those guys, and I'm just using that as an example, but you start to see the traits that always kind of carry over. Like, they always seem kind of like the same guys a lot. And I hadn't something I didn't appreciate as much when I didn't watch a lot of college football. But the more you see it, where even with Abdul Carter as 11, you're like, yeah, he's kind of Micah Parsons a little bit. You start to draw.
I
those
still
connections.
can't, and I watch more college football than you do. Probably not anywhere near as much as your boy Barth does.
Nobody
Nobody.
can. That's impossible.
Yeah, no.
But I'll just watch games and I'll be like, that guy's had a pretty good game, and then 48 hours later, I have no idea who that guy was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily watch it like that. I just watch the teams and the big names, obviously, but like Jack Sawyer is a guy. He's a good player.
Yep.
But now, like, he made those plays, and you sort of stand out in the playoffs, and you're like, okay, now I remember this guy, Jack Sawyer. He plays, he's an edge guy. He plays for Ohio State.
He didn't do it against Bowling Green.
Whereas I watched Ohio State probably 4 times this year. I don't remember Jack Sawyer.
Right.
I'm sure he made plays in all the games that I watched, but I just think the playoffs have offered a little bit of a different. And I think a lot of people watch like me just to watch the game, not necessarily like identifying this guy,
Well,
this guy,
in
this guy.
Comcast, they have that,
like
or
you- like
Xfinity,
you and
they
Alex
have that
do.
C button. So you hit the C button on Saturday, and it's got all the lists of the games.
What are we doing?
And you go down the list, and you see, oh, this is a close game. So then
Yeah.
you go into that game. That's how I do it.
Well, that's why I think Barth provides a service when he watches some of these games, and he'll tweet out lists of draft eligible
Don't give him too
guys.
much credit.
See, I'm not interested in that at all, and I'm not. This is nothing against
No, you
Alex.
go right ahead.
I just want to watch the games. I don't want to watch the games with the thought of, that guy might be
you're
a
not
top
scouting.
5 pick.
Yeah.
I'm not a scout. That's not
Yeah.
what I do. That's
Yeah.
I don't pretend to be one, and I'm not really interested in being one. I just want to watch the game.
Yeah.
Like that Scatterboo kid, I loved watching play.
Right.
Not because I think he's going to do anything in the NFL.
Yeah, see, I'm the total opposite.
Well,
Like I
could
liked
care
watching
less.
him play,
Yeah.
even though he wasn't necessarily my. This.
He's dead to me.
He's not
you don't have
my
NFL
kind of guy.
potential.
What?
You're
He's a
He's a
dead.
try-hard guy.
Because-
Paul doesn't like him.
He's not a try-hard. He's an unbelievable
He's just a
athlete.
Fifth round pick.
Yeah.
So why don't you like him?
Because he's
I'm
kind
just
of a
teasing.
dick.
I'm
Oh.
just teasing.
I mean, he's always
Scatterboo?
yelling at
know.
his
Oh, yeah.
linemen.
He's
like,
a hardo.
Oh, he's a
he's
hardo.
definite hardo.
Oh, he's
like
a
he's
hard.
not my kind of
Vrabel's
guy,
gonna
but
like him.
I mean, he basically just carried.
Paul
it.
didn't like that because
Hardo.
he'd be the guy yelling at Paul. Come on, Paul!
Move. First of all, to suggest that I was a lineman, I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that.
No, it'd be like, get us in and out of the huddle quicker.
Okay, that could have happened.
Yeah. All right, let's get to some of the emails and phone calls. Podcast@patriots.com is the email address. The TPX hotline is 855-PATS-500. We'll start with podcasts@patriots.com. This is from Chris in the UK, and it's unclassified NATO communications. So
good.
this
All right.
guy's important.
Wow.
A lot of stuff there.
He says, catching up on a podcast from a few weeks ago, December 26th, you had a caller mention that the league is rubbish today. One of the justifications for this put forward by you was that too many teams are either uncompetitive or overly strong, suggesting that there's a lack of depth in the talent pool. I remember that conversation, the disparity. I would argue that the depth of talent is not really an issue, but more about how the talent available is spread throughout the league. Hypothetically, an ideal spread of talent would see any team capable of beating another and everyone ending the season within one win over under a 500 record. If you take that as the perfect situation, a realistic goal would surely be a season with all teams somewhere between .25 and .75 in the final standings.
Oh boy.
And then he attaches a table to show how that would look, which I'm not going to get into.
That would be an
This is a
absolute
lot.
nightmare.
Yeah.
This is a lot of
Taking this metric, the best season in the last 23 years were 2002, 2003, 10, and 18. The worst season in terms of competitiveness across the board was 24, followed by 22. In fact, with the exception of 2011, 4 of the worst seasons in the last 23 years have been in the last 6. So the caller did have a point. The competitiveness across the league is currently poor in terms of distribution of talent.
It's a very
a lot.
thought out email.
I would just break
So
it down.
that's why I
just want
flagged
to
it.
see a
It was
competitive
thought
wild
out,
card weekend.
but-
Like I'd like to see a competitive wild card weekend. That's
But,
that would be
but when
nice.
was the last time you did?
I don't know.
And adding playoff teams is not helping you.
No.
They need to subtract the playoff teams.
Correct.
But here's the one factor I would say is more important in football than any other sport, and when it terms competitiveness, it's coaching. There's also a lack of good coaching across the board.
I agree with you on that, and I would say that that's all accurate in terms of the competitive and the non-competitive and all that stuff. I just don't think it's because of talent.
Right.
I think there's a lot. I think there's plenty of talent, spread out around the league. I think there's a lot of really good players on really bad teams. A lot. Now, some of the really bad teams have also, like I always use Carolina as an example. They recently just decided we're going to get rid of every good player we have because we're starting over. And, Brian Burns went and Christian McCaffrey went. And, they just decided we're going to strip it to the studs. And they're going to start over. Some teams are like that. Other teams are not bad because of that. Like the Jets certainly aren't bad because of that. That's a team that's tried and failed.
Yeah.
So is talent a problem? Did the Jets have 5 wins because of no talent?
Well, I would say that quarterback talent's a problem.
No, I get that. But they haven't been good, but it's not because of a lack of talent.
Well,
they're missing other things.
Yeah.
And I think your point is much more valid than talent, coaching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need good coaching.
I think
in the
you're
NFL.
absolutely right, Fred.
Yeah.
But that's what I like about the NFL is that, and football in general, is that it's always kind of a chemistry experiment. And there's, and there's always, like it's like cooking. There's quite enough salt in this one. And, there's little elements that maybe don't even jump out to you initially, but talent, coaching, depth,
And
avoidance of injuries.
And then,
thank you.
And then even when teams do have success with a talented team, that doesn't always mean they're going to have sustained success because you have
Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Why is Cincinnati not in the playoffs? I would say Fred again.
Yeah.
Coaching.
Yeah.
And my curse.
This is true.
Yeah.
Their defense fell apart.
Yeah. But, you have individuals with their own personalities. You have success, and then you have entitlement.
Yeah.
And now people aren't thinking about the team first. They're thinking about themselves first. And they're, so it's that's what makes football so great. There's so many layers to it.
Yeah.
And all of these make it tough to have sustained success, which makes the dynasty so much more impressive because they did it over for 20 years.
Yeah, I don't. That's a different argument, and you're right. But the whole talent, like there are some bad teams that are, they're bad because they don't have a lot of, the Patriots are one of them.
Yeah.
Like they don't have a ton of talent. I don't think Tennessee right now is, brimming with talent. I think that's the reason why they're picking first overall. And certainly Carolina's not a very talented team, at the moment. But there are some teams that should
first
be
overall because we won that last damn game.
should be better. There are some teams that should be better than they are.
Yeah.
And I think Fred's point about coaching, I think there are more good quarterbacks. I say this all the time. There are more good quarterbacks in the league than there are good coaches.
And they're not being developed right, maybe, or coached right, or the offense isn't being coached right. Coaching is critical in football.
I think there's a lot of coaches, especially on the offensive side of the ball with quarterbacks, that are getting these newer age quarterbacks like a Drake May, like a Caleb Williams, and they don't 100% know what to do with them because they're not the prototypical quarterback that they grew up with, and the systems that they grew up with don't really apply to these types of quarterbacks that are coming out today. And I think a lot of these coaches are a little bit lost into terms of what kind of scheme and what kind of situation they're supposed to put these guys in. And then you see like Jaden Daniels gets Cliff Kingsbury, who has a background in college football, who has a background in the air raid and that type of offense, and all of a sudden he has this great rookie year. So I wonder how much of that is going on, and if there's maybe going to be a little bit more of a trickle up from the college game, into the NFL to try to adapt the scheme, because it's just going to keep happening. Like these quarterbacks in college are running RPO offenses. They're running all these different spread schemes and air raids and things like that. That's not going away. Like they're not going to all of a sudden go back to putting the quarterback under center for half the game and things like that. So these NFL teams have to adapt. They have to find ways for their coaching to adapt. So whether that's hiring coordinators from college or just teaching the coordinators in the NFL some of the college flavor, a guy like Joe Brady is succeeding because he spent time in college. Liam Cohn is succeeding because he spent time in college. And so, like, whether it's that route or it's just teaching those guys, they got to do a better job with some of these young quarterbacks.
Kyle in Pembroke writes in with the discussion of when the discussion of wide receivers comes up, Paul likes to point out that he'd replace DeMario Douglas, which I think, with respect to Paul, is stupid. He's undoubtedly our most athletic, explosive receiver and a solid weapon out of the slot. It would be smarter to add on to him by getting a solid X and Z receiver that can complement his skills. An added benefit is we don't get rid of homegrown talent, something that's been a problem that's led to this awful roster. And before he asked in a snarky tone, yes, Douglas is talented enough to keep around and to be considered a homegrown talent.
Yeah, Paul.
Paul, your response.
Well, my first thing is, what homegrown talent have they let go that you regret?
Myers. I mean, not Myers. I keep calling Leonard Myers.
No,
Jacoby Myers.
Myers is Myers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'd
Same.
probably rather have Myers than Douglas.
I would too, but I think you're in the same spot if you have Myers, and I like Myers.
Yeah.
But okay, so give me some
Should've kept
more.
him.
Give me some. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yes, Jacoby Myers.
Joe Tooney. Homegrown talent,
All right,
right?
so now we get two.
Okay.
Not even an argument. That was
Two?
an absolute yes.
I mean, I would not have paid him the money that Kansas City pays him, but that's me.
Oh, I'm not saying that, but
that's what it costs.
They shouldn't have franchised him to begin with. They
Well,
should have just
why?
extended him at the time.
Well, but you were extending him with Kansas City's paying him.
Maybe,
I would
maybe.
gladly pay Joe
Or-
Tooney again.
okay, even if it
Okay,
was the
so
same.
two. Two.
We're inching up. We're inching up.
Maybe-
We're going to get to
maybe-
3, I think.
Maybe I'm missing a lot. My mind's eye doesn't really
Yeah.
remember
No,
like
you're
all of
not.
these big
not.
fish that got away.
No.
But
Yeah.
maybe I'm wrong.
No, you're not.
That's two.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I would say everything he said about DeMario Douglas, I would agree with. He's their best, most explosive player out of the slot. Absolutely wouldn't argue one thing. My goal is to get a better player than that. So he's more explosive out of the slot than the other teams that have that player.
Yeah.
That's my goal.
Yeah, we're looking
Like,
at it in
my
relative
goal isn't to have
terms.
the Patriots' best. My goal is to have one that would be considered one of the best in the league.
But my eye test
That's all.
with Pop, I think he can be a contributor. He's not a number one or a number two, but I think he is dynamic.
I think he could be a contributor.
If you get him the
Yes,
ball in
he's not
space, he
dynamic.
can do things.
Yeah.
You don't think he's dynamic?
No,
Why?
because I don't think he makes a lot of big plays. That to me is dynamic.
Yeah, I just look at opportunity versus the big plays he makes.
Maybe it's offensive related.
Yeah.
I'm willing to
Yeah.
say that in a better sort of coordinated scheme, he could be more dynamic.
Yeah.
Like I love Jacoby Myers. I don't think he's dynamic either.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think he's not that explosive guy, but he's a dependable guy
Yeah.
who will produce. And God, this
Yeah.
team
So
needs that.
what I would want is, in addition to his X and Z, which I don't care about. I don't. If they're
you.
good players, I don't
Appreciate
care
that.
where they play.
Why banana?
I want better talent. Like all the guys that they've had have, Kendrick Bourne had an 800-yard season a couple years ago. Keyshawn Boutte showed flashes of being that's great. They've all demonstrated a modicum of ability. I think you can, to use a college term, over-recruit these guys. I think you can get better, more talented options across the board for all of these positions. X, Y, Z, Fing,
U,
banana,
F,
slot. I don't care.
H.
I think you can get better players than what you have.
Yeah, I don't think that Pop Douglas is one of those players where you say, okay, we're set in
No,
the,
no,
in the
no,
slot.
no.
And if we really like Emeka Ibuka from Ohio State, who's a pure slot guy, if we really like Ibuka, we can't draft Ibuka because we have Pop Douglas, which I think was a factor with Ladd McConkey because they...
I do too, and that's my point.
Right, and so you can't do that with Pop Douglas. Now, is he a nice complementary piece to have in the offense? Yeah, I think he is.
Sure.
Because he's a guy that is a little bit of a jitterbug.
If he's my
and
four,
can be
I'm
a
okay with
gadget.
that. If
Yeah.
I have T. Higgins and,
AJ Brown.
let's say McMillan.
Oh, okay.
Let's say
No.
T. Higgins and McMillan.
No.
And now I knock him down.
Yeah.
So he's just like another option, and he becomes. Well, you can do it. You can do it. Tutu Atwell. He just becomes another
Right.
oh, hey, you know what? Every once in a while they throw the ball to DeMario Douglas, and he comes up with a big play for you. Like Curtis Samuel did in the Buffalo game.
Yeah, you also wonder.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like Curtis Samuel's
Yeah.
not going to catch 80 passes for Buffalo,
Right.
but every once in a while he makes a play. I think DeMario Douglas has ability.
Yeah.
So please don't say that I think that he stinks. I don't think he stinks.
Well, what happens if you have a guy on the outside that has a real presence to him like a T. Higgins, where now the middle of the field is a little bit more open for those types of guys, because obviously that's what everybody's sitting on now is throws into the middle of the field to the tight ends and to the slot. So
under 10 yards.
So if you're able to kind of open it up a little bit
Yep.
with people on the outside, I'm not saying he's going to be a 1,500-yard receiver, but it definitely makes his job a little bit easier for sure.
I would say
And-
for me, sorry, dude.
I was just going to say, like, I think that Evan's point about Ladd McConkey is exactly where my mindset is. And I think that I don't have anybody that's ever told me this, but I think that that's true. I think that they weren't necessarily looking at McConkey because they felt like they had that guy in DeMario Douglas. And I think that's not really a close comparison.
Yeah.
Jackson Smith and Jigba. They're slot receivers.
Yeah.
They play the same spot. They're not the same guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you say like dynamic, that to me there's a difference.
McConkey's more like Cooper Kupp. You know?
Yeah, a little bit
bad.
Cooper
bigger.
Kupp was dynamic.
Yeah.
He's 31 now.
No.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
I know
Cooper
what
Kupp
you're
had
saying.
2,000 yards one year.
yeah.
Like to say he's Cooper Kupp is
I
ridiculous.
said he's more like him in terms of versatile. Like
Yeah.
he's
I
not
understand
just
what
a
you're
slot
A little
guy.
more side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's unique too with Pop this year, and I think Sophie talked to Pop, and I think she just posted something, which shout out Sophie. But he said,
Thanks, Mike.
credit to Alex Van Pelt because he wasn't a big slot guy. He's usually a 2 tight end guy, and he really focused on trying to get more opportunities for Pop Douglas as a slot receiver.
Which is why I said if they had a different coordinated offense,
Right. So maybe,
he could be
and
better.
that might be part of it too. When they got to the draft, they're like, well, the slot's not really going to be a big part if they did think that Ladd McConkey was a slot. But I would say if someone like Josh were to come here and you need
Yeah.
a dog and a high volume slot guy, I don't think Pop Douglas is that guy. He's
He may
maybe
not
the
be.
second
No.
guy.
Yeah, that
He's
I-
more like a Danny Amendola.
Yeah.
But I have trust issues with Pop Douglas. I have trust issues if he is going to be locked in for 100% of the snaps, and in
That's
the big
fair.
moments, is he going to be ready to make those big
I like
plays?
the email though. It's a
Yeah,
good email. Like,
Thought-provoking email.
Yeah,
I
and-
definitely agree with that point, Mike. Like, especially again, zone coverage. Like, he still doesn't have a great feel for when to sit and when to find those soft spots in zone coverage. And if you're going to be a guy that's going to get targeted 100 times out of the slot, then that's going to be a big part of your job is finding those little.
And you think about
soft
how
spots.
intense Wes Welker and Julian Edelman were, and the guys
Yeah.
in Josh's offense that made things go and walked in, and 3rd and 10 in the Super Bowl, and Julian Edelman's going to take a huge hit and hang on to it. That's the kind of guy I want in that
and
position.
that's like, I look at those and I'm spoiled. I'm spoiled rotten because I had that guy for the better part of 20 years with Troy Brown, Wes Welker, and Julian Edelman. I don't see any similarities, really, at all,
that they're-
between
they're
DeMario
small.
Douglas and those three guys.
Undersized.
Junior from
Xavier
Minneapolis. This may
Restrepo.
seem strange, but I'm a little worried how focused Vrabel seems to be about fixing the offensive line
That'll
this
be an
offseason.
envelope guy.
I say they were.
Fred will love him.
Wait, you're worried that he wants to fix the
No,
offensive
he's
line?
worried about how focused he is on fixing the offensive line.
Have you watched the Patriots offensive
Did you
line?
Well,
listen to the show?
but-
Wait, can you? I'm sorry, because I was.
yeah, yeah,
Me
Paul,
and Evan was
let me
snark-
go
we,
over
we
this.
had we had a little side conversation about Xavier
we
Restrepo.
need to stop
going.
doing that. We do that too often.
So can-
Yeah.
That was my fault. I took responsibility. It was my fault.
I just wanted to get Restrepo's name out there.
Yeah.
We'll reset.
We brought up
This may
Restrepo.
seem a little strange, but I'm a little worried how focused Vrabel seems to be about fixing
Okay.
the offensive line this offseason. I understand how bad we were last season, but there's still a lot of resources and youth invested in this O-line. We have a 3rd-round right tackle, a $19 million right guard, a 1st-round left guard, a veteran center, and 2 4th-round offensive guards who have shown potential at times. I know we need to get a left tackle this offseason, but besides that, can we really afford to ignore the other holes on the roster? Considering the lack of high-end offensive line talent in the draft and free agency, I'm worried Vrabel might spend premium assets on mediocre O-line talent and pass on high-end talent on other premium positions.
I
Looking
would
at the
love to
bigger
get
picture,
mediocre.
the best move might be to address other positions with premium assets this offseason, see how Robinson, Wallace, and Strange develop, and then address the O-line in full next offseason when you have more information and possibly a better draft and free agent class.
No.
What do you think?
No. No. I mean, did you watch last season? I mean,
But
that's
would you
all
o-
we talked
I know,
about. Like, they have
there's
to
no
make
doubt,
steps.
But
Like,
do you overdraft because of that?
I mean, I'd try not to, and I think that's a great question as to Will Campbell at 4th overall. But I just think this has to be. I look, and I agree with some of the points he made. You got to get over where guys were drafted. Like, they got here, they're now Patriots. It doesn't matter that you have a first-round left guard or center
who can't play.
Cole Strange is here, and his sample size speaks for itself. I think you have to make at least a couple moves, and you've got the resources to do it. But to say, let's see how it works out in year 2 with this group. Like, I don't
say
want
a
that.
couple moves. He's talking about premium assets. Is there a difference in your mind?
Well, look, I think that what Vrabel needs to do is he needs to get it right. And, it doesn't mean go overspend for a guy that you think may or may not. That's their problem. Go figure it out. Be creative. Find a way to get good.
I guess what I'm getting at is, do you throw away taking the best players available because you need offensive line help?
I wouldn't. I mean, I would take Abdul Carter
so
if he
I
was
think
there
that's what
at
he's
4.
saying.
I don't think that's what he's saying.
No?
I think he thinks they're in a lot better shape than they are, number one. Number two, why is it automatically, if he's too focused on the offensive line, he's not going to address anything else? Like, I think he's making a connection there. Like, so in other words, it sounds like if they take an offensive lineman with the first-round pick, that's a fail. And
unless that guy is the best player available.
No, and I don't know. I don't know exactly what they're going to do. I don't know if they're going to pick 4. Maybe they move down and they get more picks and they get an offensive lineman there. But just some of the things that he said, Mike already addressed. They have a former first-round guard who has not established any level of consistency as a pro.
Right.
Huge question.
Who we got laughed at for taking.
He talks about the guys that they took last year that showed promise at times. Exactly when was that? They had the worst offensive line from week 1 to week 18.
Do you read any of these media people, Paul? They're going to tell you that they flashed.
No, I mean, ask Evan about Layden Robinson.
Well, I'm talking to the people that do this for a living, and they didn't really seem to see that. Yeah. Caden Wallace missed most of the year.
Right. Caden Wallace is obviously a mystery box because he didn't play. So I'll say that if you want to say he's a mystery box, then sure. Layden Robinson, to me, has not proven anything. I don't think he's proven anything.
City So was inactive in week 18.
Yeah.
Like, when everybody was getting their varsity letter, he was inactive.
The coaching staff definitely did not like City So. This past coaching staff obviously did not care for City So. But, I mean, look, we've read off the stats about the offensive line all season long. They're the worst offensive line in the league across the board, no matter who you ask, whether it's, win rate, PFF grade, eye test, whatever. Like, they were the worst offensive line in football, and it's starting to go up my backside a little bit. A little bit. About how this draft has no offensive line talent. Like, that's starting to really bug me. Like, the Texas just went to the college football quarterfinal with a left tackle that is going to be a top 10 pick.
Semifinal.
And so semifinal. Thank you. So, if you keep on saying to me that there's no talent on the offensive line at the top of the draft, I am going to continuously disagree with you. Yeah. Kelvin Banks is a legitimate tackle prospect. Will Campbell, if he measures out at the combine, is a legitimate tackle prospect. Every other year, Olu Fushanu on down. No, they're not Joe Alt. I get that, but Joe Alt is a unicorn. Joe Alt was a elite blue chip prospect, and those guys don't come around every single day. These tackle prospects at the top of the draft this year are fine. They are perfectly fine top 10 picks, and they will go in the top 10.
And I'm not arguing. If he is suggesting, stay true to your board, pick the best player, I have no argument with that. I just think worrying that he's focused too much on what is clearly the worst part of the roster. I don't really know why. What is making him think that? I mean, I know he talked about the offensive line, but he talked about a lot of things.
Yeah. I didn't get the sense he was overly talking about offensive
and I think
line.
He's connecting dots.
Yeah.
I think the emailer is connecting dots, saying he's focused on the offensive line and therefore is not going to look to get wide receivers or edge rushers or whatever else that they need.
Yeah.
The biggest need is offensive line. That's hard coming from me.
Yeah.
I always just tell you can get offensive linemen. Well, they took my theory and blew it up last year.
Yeah.
They didn't even try. They did not even try to get an offensive line, and look what happened.
Yeah, and I don't even believe you have to make Caden Wallace and Layden Robinson walk the plank already. Like, I'm fine with them coming back to camp, but they
can't
need
go in thinking that you have starting caliber players with either one of those two guys.
And that's why I'd listen to. I wouldn't really want to overspend on another guard when you're already playing on Wenyu, but I would seriously look at. And this is a terrible example, but the Nick Leveretts of the world, someone who's played a little bit, that has some experience, that you can at least say, if we're in a pickle, someone like this can play left guard. If Layden, I think that's the bare minimum of getting him competition.
When he talks about the interior of the pocket, though, I think you feel good about Onwenu, and you hope that Andrews is gonna come back and be okay. That I also think is a wild card.
Yep.
That Andrews is gonna.
I think
come
Andrews
back
thinks
and
it's a wild card.
Be
wild
perfectly
card.
fine.
Yeah.
So then you're looking at Strange, Ben Brown, maybe on coming back on a tender. Like, those guys are your centers right now. If David Andrews isn't okay, Trey Smith is an intriguing player to me, because yes, he plays guard. Yes, you're going to have to pay a lot of money for him. But if you want to go best player available in free agency, instead of overpaying Cam Robinson to play left tackle and saying, we solved left tackle after he gave up 12 pressures against the Rams the other night, a guy like Trey Smith is a Pro Bowl caliber guard.
It's funny, after that game the other night, we haven't gotten a lot of Cam Robinson.
He was dreadful.
That was big on the Cam Robinson,
the
plug
other kid
and
I
play.
think is a free agent is the Rams Jackson. Alaric Jackson.
Yeah, he plays left tackle.
I think he's due to hit free agency too, and that's maybe another younger option to consider.
I mean, if they could get, I wouldn't be looking to break the bank on Cam Robinson for sure, but I wouldn't be opposed to a veteran placeholder and drafting somebody, and then you sort of, you fill it with multiple spots.
Yeah, like even if you can't get
multiple guys,
the plug and play rookie left tackle, I don't know if
which is
one
hard.
exists.
That's hard to do.
But at least if you get one that you feel like has some potential and has played left tackle before and has some athleticism, and that you can say maybe we can develop this kid. And who knows, maybe Caden Wallace comes back, new coaching staff, new scheme, gets it, starts
now,
to click.
To defend the emailer a little bit, if they want to just go hot and heavy, like that's all we're going to worry about is the offensive line, I would share your concern, and I would say that that's not the right move. Like, you can't just decide I'm going to put all my resources into getting like 3 or 4 offensive linemen and think my team is fixed now. They have a lot of holes.
Yeah,
and
but
I'll go
they
back
have one good offensive lineman.
No, I agree.
They have one
just
starter.
Be a right guard.
Like
be a right guard. Focus on that. Be
But
good.
if
But all these
but
other
let's say you
guys,
got
Wallace,
two-
Robinson, like, you can't. These are all mystery boxes. Like, they have not proven to be starters at any capacity. So, like, let's just pump the brakes on. They have all these options. Like, they have one starter on the offensive line.
And I'll go back to what we talked about earlier, coaching. Do we have a good offensive line coach? I don't know. Scott Peters, first year doing it as the top guy. Was he good? I don't know. I don't know. But
he was given
hopefully
crap talent.
somebody knows whether or not he's good. And whoever you bring in this year for offensive line, they need to be coached up. They need to be coached up.
And that's where, like, my brain kind of goes back to, unfortunately, Dante, where, he was able to make chicken salad out of chicken ass. And
it
that's
was always competent.
Yeah.
It wasn't always, we didn't always have the Dallas Cowboys line of the 90s or whatever, but it was always a competent line. There were a couple years where Brady got hit a little bit too much. And
they always got better too. I think during the course of the season.
Yeah.
But should I beat that out of my head? Like, is that just
You'd
something
have
that
problems, and then he'd fix them.
Yeah, I mean,
he'd fix them.
Is that something that just existed kind of within the Patriots bubble? I don't know enough about other teams' offensive line coaches and their development, but does that happen elsewhere where you just have a good system and guys kind of come and like, hey, this undrafted rookie's actually, we've been working behind the scenes with him, and now he's ready to start the next 5 years at right guard.
Like, two other places that I can think of off the top of my head. Philly with Stoutland, who's like the other Scarnecchia.
Yeah.
He's considered in high regard. And for years, with Callahan in Cleveland, like those guys were able to just kind of plug and play and keep going. But a lot of those lines still have really high investment at a lot of these positions. I mean, Philadelphia.
What do you think the secret is to a guy like Callahan? Why is he such a good line coach? What
Teacher,
makes
I
him a
guess.
good
I would
coach?
guess
Simplicity.
Yeah.
Like really narrowing it down to like the simplistic things. And I think sometimes, as much as we made a big deal out of the strike system to try to get on board with Scott Peters, that was one thing I worried about, was like, is this putting a lot into people's heads, right? Like, you got to think through all of these different, if he does this, I do that.
But he learned under Callahan.
He did learn under Callahan. But I think simplicity is a big one, just like saying this is what you have to do, and this is the 3 things you have to worry about, and repetition. Dante Scarnecchia was all about reps, and they would just rep and rep and rep and rep, and then you'd get into the game, and it would be just like practice.
And they wanted to do well for him.
Yeah.
Like they respected him. They didn't want to let him down.
Yeah, and
It's
he
like Dante too, right?
he would
That's what I
turn
mean
it
about
up.
Dante. Yeah.
You know, he would practice at game speed. There was no 75% with him, right? Like they were practicing at game speed all the time, and that way there it was almost easier at times in the games than it was in practice.
Let's see. There's Rob in San Diego via Connecticut. I was initially a Ben Johnson supporter and wasn't thrilled with how predetermined the process seemed after the Mayo hiring last year. At the time, I thought Vrabel was a solid but not exceptional coach and was hoping for an offensive-minded hire. However, after listening to the past few episodes, I've had a change of heart. Considering where the Patriots are now, I believe Vrabel is the best fit for the job. On another note, I recently received a bogus ticket for not coming to a complete stop at a stop sign. Hearing Paul's story about his ticket and the advice about hiring a traffic lawyer inspired me to do the same. I've hired one and will update you on the outcome, something I wouldn't have thought to do without the show. Lastly, there's a regular caller named Boston Cream, my favorite kind of donut. My wife hates them, and we constantly debate whether they even qualify as donuts.
Of course they do.
Are pastries with filling really donuts? Yes, they are. Aren't donuts defined by having holes, making a Boston cream the complete opposite of a donut? Aren't there Boston cream pies as well? I'm team donut, but it's a precarious position. No,
Definitely a donut.
jelly filled, those types of they are donuts.
Yeah.
They are donuts.
Official. Stamp
Yeah.
it.
Now a cruller may not be a donut.
I like a cruller.
Yeah.
Well,
But it's,
why?
I think a crawler's
Yeah,
a
what
donut.
cruller's a donut?
Yeah.
It's
It's
light.
a pastry.
It's more airy.
Donut.
Donut has to be round.
It's just
in
a
my-
different shape.
Right.
You mean like I see round crullers, like a French cruller, right? Like they're
Oh, if it's French, and it has, those are
If it's
donuts.
French.
If it's
But I'm
French,
talking about the stick.
This is awesome.
I
I
do
like
like
the stick.
I do
I like
the
a glazed stick. Those are
Me too.
thick,
Yeah.
nice and
What- what's
glazed.
I believe a donut needs to be round.
I'm
Pause.
saying, I like the stick. You know,
I don't know.
I don't know. There's a density to the glazed stick, especially the like the buttermilk. Is that what they do with the buttermilk? I don't know, but they're good. I like the sticks.
Nolan in
Make it stop.
I do.
Nolan in California. Got to be honest, I had mixed emotions. Was hoping for Ben Johnson. However, listening to you guys and Mike talk about the culture has me really excited. I'm the complete opposite of the previous emailer. I'm so excited hearing Coach Mike talk about the trenches and building our team starts in the trenches. I can't wait to see what the moves are.
What else I liked about Vrabel? I didn't realize both his parents were educators, and the way he talks, it's, you know, a lot of coaches, I feel like they're like, this is my system, we're going to get on board. And, you know, from Vrabel so far, we've heard of a lot of just teaching and empowering players to, you know, to be able to play well. You know, so I think that is a little bit of that, you know, new age kind of approach to it. But I just think the same thing we were talking about the offensive line coach. It comes back to teaching. And there are certain people who are good teachers and are able to, you know, not only get the point across in a succinct manner that's easily digestible, but, you know, also inspire their players to play hard for them. And I think I've had coaches in my life some that were really tough and others that were more, you know, you just didn't want to let them down. And it's like we talk about all the time. There's so many different ways to do it, but I think really it's about teaching, and, you know, that's the core of it.
Fred, did you ever have a good coach in anything?
Ever.
Oh yeah.
One that you liked?
My wrestling coach is in the Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Did you like him?
Jim Peckham? Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a real good guy. Why?
I just figured you had a problem with
Oh, I had a
all your
lot of coaches I had a problem with.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
I wasn't wrong.
Oh yeah. Oh, I had a lot of coaches I had a problem with.
Let me
those are
tell you
like-
why you're not doing it right.
Do you find it different, so
I
Fred,
got
like,
sent to the locker room once.
but you played a lot of individual sports, right? You played like
Well,
tennis and
I
wrestling.
played
like,
basketball, football.
but that's what I was going to ask you.
baseball.
You had a good
That was
cross
my other
section of
thing is-
both. Like,
Sort of transition to individual
I did
sports.
transition to individual because I want to play all the time.
well, the difference for you between getting coaching,
I don't want to watch
Yeah.
anything.
It's all about
But like
me.
Yeah,
the
it is,
difference
yeah.
between an individual sport coach who was like a one-on-one, that, you know, versus a team coach that, I mean, there's a difference.
Had to worry
that,
about other
you know?
people.
Well, yeah,
who
and
didn't
had
know
to
what just
inspire
think
the
about
team.
me. Yeah,
Right.
I get that.
Yeah.
Huge difference.
Yeah,
John
I-
McEnroe. over
I mean,
here.
that's, you know, it's a different style of trying to get something out of one person rather than
Well, I
trying to
remember
get a team.
freshman basketball. He takes me aside and goes, "You know, you'd be really good if you could develop a right hand." And I'm in my head. I'm like, what about all the people that don't have a left hand? You don't take them aside.
That's his first thought as a freshman in high school.
I was
Like not
the same
like
way. I'm not gonna lie.
well, I mean that's the bugaboo of 99% of us who tried to play sports and
Yeah.
weren't good enough. Like, no, I wasn't as good with my right
Yeah.
hand. But Fred's like, what about them? What do you got prejudice against lefties?
Right.
Like,
Screw it, I'm
yeah,
quitting.
beautiful.
The teaching thing is cool though.
You're
dude.
gonna start
Yeah.
Danny Moynihan ahead of me because he's got a right hand. I can go around him.
Oh, we got names.
And
still.
you know that's the guy.
Scars
Right
run
ahead of
deep.
him,
They
too.
run
Yeah.
deep. They don't heal.
Yeah.
Rick in Riverside, Rhode Island. After reading Evan and Mike's recent articles, I think Graham or Schwartz would both be great additions to the DC.
Yeah, Patrick Graham, Jim Schwartz, couple.
Patrick Graham's
Schwartz,
a
though,
free
he's
agent.
always bugged me.
He's a
Yeah.
Vrabel guy. He was on Vrabel's
Yeah.
staff as a senior assistant for a couple years, and he's currently the Cleveland Browns defensive coordinator. But we were talking about this off the air. That Cleveland staff is not for long. You know, like if they don't have a good year next year, then Stefanski's going to get canned. If I'm Vrabel, I'm thinking, okay, well, you can come here, and I'm probably going to be here for a while, and you're going to have a job for a while, or you can be on the Titanic in Cleveland
Yeah.
and see that ship sink. So
Certainly, Jim Schwartz has seen it all. He's been
he's
around.
a really good.
I like
really
Jim
good.
Schwartz. I think he's a good defensive coordinator.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Can I read
I'm
a
not
quick?
as
Can I read
high
a,
on Patrick
Can I read a
Graham.
quick text from my dad? These are the kind of texts I get from my dad. Here's a thought per coward. BB was only successful because of Brady and Dante. Once he retired, BB's old line was weak 2 years later. So that's Eddie D chiming in on it.
Listen, I throw Ernie
This is
Adams
what we
in
do all
there.
day.
I think there were certain people that really helped Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a trust thing. On offense, I think AVP should remain. Yes, last year was painful, but the Patriots franchise quarterback got better every week until the lack of talent at wide receiver and O-line became too much. He has the Cleveland ties y'all mentioned, Vrabel likes, and Drake has comfort level with him. I'm concerned with Josh because of stories on how his system is tough to learn for wide receivers. Do you think our wide receivers can handle it? LovePatriots.com. Thanks for the great content, and please consider adding Blue Sky to your social media outreach. NFL content / engagement is growing there with folks like Mina Kimes leading the way. Well, right now we're not allowed to. We had a account briefly on Blue Sky, but the league asked us to take it down because it's not an approved social media platform for the NFL yet.
Oh,
Okay.
I did not
Good
know
to
that.
know.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, so
You
we're
guys
ready to
will have
go.
let me know what's going on over there.
Whenever the league gives us the green light, we'll get back on Blue Sky.
go
I
on
need
with
like
TikTok.
a good app that posts to both because
So,
like
all
I just
75
I'm sorry
social media outlets.
I'm just too
Right.
lazy
Nah,
to
you
post to manually
yeah,
post.
exactly. Like I would just want one thing, and
Yeah.
whatever I do goes to everywhere.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
I'm too like I tried to keep up with the Blue Sky when it first came out because I was getting some traction on there with our articles and stuff. But I just after a while I let go of the rope.
It's so hard for a brand because like each time a new social media thing comes out, we're like, well, now we got to do it there too. Like, at what point do you start pulling back or just not?
Well, I think for a
going,
brand though, it
chasing
is a
every
little
single
bit
one?
more complicated
Yeah.
because each platform does have a little bit of a different
Yeah.
style, and so you do need to tailor your content depending on the platform.
Yeah, I mean, so it's hard. It seems like, and now we're doing threads. We got to find a way to do thread. You know, like there's
Right.
no like, all right, let's just stop chasing it, and we're gonna be here, and
Right.
you know,
You
come
come
to
to us,
Patriots.com,
well,
and that's where the
I think
content is.
That
and-
used to be the way back 30 years ago.
Fred can't post with his right hand.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know, if only he could
I don't
post
know
it
if
was right.
demanding people come to you is the way to go anymore.
No, I know. I
Yeah.
just it seems like sometimes the what is it the cart is leading the horse kind of thing where you're always just chasing. You know, I know you're chasing engagement, you're chasing where fans are going to be, and you want to give the fans that, but it's just all right, we got a new social media outlet. Everyone come here now. It's just, I don't know. It's hard.
Ellen, Wisconsin says, I was previously against this, but I've turned it the other way. Bring back Josh. I need to hear my quarterback yelling Rita again. Really, though, I think he's a good OC, and I like that he puts it all on the quarterback. I think May can handle it.
I wouldn't be opposed to bringing AVP back. I just don't know if there's a marriage there with him and Josh. It just feels like they're from two separate backgrounds, and it's hard to see the marriage. But you know, maybe if it was somebody more West Coast based that has connections to Alex Van Pelt, I do think there's value in keeping him around. I just don't know if he'd take that step back and be like, you know, like I think you said, Evan, like associate coach or, you know, a senior offensive advisor or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know
what
if
I
his
would pitch.
jam.
But yeah, you're 100% right with Josh and AVP. Like it's like oh, we're going to teach Spanish with a German teacher. Like it just doesn't really make much sense in terms of that. But if they hired, let's say, Nick Caley, from the Rams, and he comes back, and now we have a West Coast play caller, offensive coordinator running a West Coast system, and AVP is just here to continue to work with Drake on left foot forward and all that kind of stuff, then sure, like I think that's might be my favorite pick other than Josh would be to do something like that.
Let's go to the TPX hotline, 855-PATS-500. Christian's in Pascal.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good.
So first things first, about the donut. Apparently, according to Wikipedia, a donut is just a pastry made from leavened fried dough, and so it can be a ring donut or a filled donut. So, yeah,
Boom,
Boston cream
done.
is definitely a donut.
Okay.
Check.
All right.
But what I was calling about was I wanted to push back on something that you guys were talking about last episode, about the Patriots being close to the Commanders. And to me, I don't think that the two teams actually were that close. I think that the fact that the Pats had Bill Beli-check and the Commanders had Ron Rivera had a pretty big thing to do with it. I think that once both coaches were gone, the Commanders' roster was significantly better, and that Bill really added a lot to what the Patriots were able to do last year, and that their roster was actually much worse. And then on top of that, the Commanders had, I think, 3 second-round picks and 2 third-round picks. So I just think that the Commanders' roster was significantly better, and if the Pats didn't have Bill, then they probably would have been the first overall pick. They might have, who knows how bad they could have been. So I just think that there was a little more of a gap between the two teams than they were kind of giving credit for.
Yeah.
I mean, Ron Rivera is not a
Thanks,
bad,
Pascal.
Like, not a
Ron
scrub
Rivera is a
coach.
2-time coach of the year.
Yeah.
A. B. They were about as similar in terms of talent as you can be for two teams. And I just want to, I don't think anybody said they're close now. Like we were talking about, at the end of the 23 season, they tied with the second worst record in football. Washington got the second pick. The Patriots got the third based on the strength of schedule stuff. They played a game right here in Foxborough that came down to the last possession, that there was a deflected pass that got picked off that allowed Washington to win the game. Washington didn't have any stronger of a roster. They added, in the last part that Pascal said that I agree with, he had, those second and third round picks. They added 4 starters in the draft, at least another couple, 2, 3, 4 in free agency. Patriots didn't do any of that. The Patriots opted to re-sign all of the players off that team.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things that I said, we're running it back, and we're changing the quarterback, but we're running it back.
Yeah.
That's why you stayed where you are, and they made progress. Now, I did not envision the progress that they made. I'm not going to be a fraud. I didn't have any idea that they would win 12 games the way they did. That was a remarkable turnaround.
And still winning.
So they have 13 new starters. I just counted
13
on both, from between the two sides of the ball. Some of those are rookies.
That's why you're not close now.
Yeah, some of those are rookies. Some of those were, just
Bobby Wagner.
really good free agent signings. Bobby Wagner is the one example I always come back to. But Andrew Wiley, who was with the Chiefs the year before, started in the Super Bowl at tackle. These guys aren't household names. Bobby Wagner is, but isn't that type of player anymore. But those guys are solid, capable, veteran NFL players that just came
Who's
in.
their GM?
And Peters.
Peters.
Yeah,
Adam
Peters. Those guys just came in and were serviceable, were functional starters. And then obviously Jaden Daniels is the one elevating them all. But that's
it, right?
That's it, right?
You hit on the draft picks, you hit on your free agency signings, and all of a sudden you're turning things around.
How many starters did the Patriots add?
It's a good question. I'm trying to think now.
None.
Yeah.
Drake.
No, beyond the quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean,
Cooper's not a starter, but he they kind of added him.
Yeah.
Second tight end.
I know, but
No, it's
he
Antonio
replaced
Gibson,
Gesicki.
RB2.
Yeah.
A lot. Some depth guys, second level guys.
Yeah,
but
did Did anybody start on defense that wasn't here last year? That wasn't here in 23, I mean? Like, I'm counting.
Well, no, and I
I'm
mean,
counting 24 as this year.
Talking-
So.
Well, no, he
it's
wasn't
like,
a starter.
some guys that
Yeah.
were on the practice squad last year.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
that
I mean,
kinda
like,
guy.
the offensive line featured new guys, but I wouldn't call them starters.
No.
No.
I mean, you could maybe make a case of
Like, Ben Brown is,
Keon
yeah,
White.
he's a, technically he's a new starter, but
yeah.
he's a practice squad refugee that
Yeah.
you picked up in the
Right.
middle of the season.
Right.
Maybe Keon White. He played a little more this year, but
Yeah, but
I mean
he was
that
on
we're,
the team.
But he was
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, he wasn't an addition this year.
Oh,
I'm
I
talking
just
about
meant like
guys
a new
that-
starter.
that they
Like,
brought in that
now-
I
started.
think Evan's counting 13 guys
Yeah.
that weren't on the 23
Actually-
Washington Commanders that are starters
do it.
now.
Do it.
14 because I forgot Jaden Daniels because I was looking at everybody else. But,
Like,
you know,
2/3 of your
I think
starting
you could
offense
maybe
and
make an
defense.
argument that there were 3 guys that started for the 24 Patriots that weren't on the 23 team.
And that includes Drake May.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you have like
And
guys
maybe.
like
Yeah.
like Jeremy Chin, Frankie Louvu. Like those guys are not superstar players, but they came in
They
and they
needed 'em.
played.
If they
Yeah.
ran it back with
Serviceable.
the same roster that they had in 23 and it was just Jaden Daniels, they would
Yeah.
not have won 12 games.
I wonder how many they wanted to have. You know, like were they expecting Chukwuekorafor to step in and be one of those starters? You know,
Well,
were they-
but you're also expecting more than Drake May to come out of your draft class and start.
Right.
Like,
Right.
they had,
huge.
my boy from Everett, Mikey Sanders still,
Yeah, he's a really good
steps
player.
in as a second-round pick and starts.
Yep.
The
Yeah.
Brandon Coleman, third-round pick. And these aren't necessarily like great players, but they stepped into starting roles and they established a level that was better than what they had.
And
Yeah.
also established like they missed on Emmanuel Forbes. It didn't matter, right? Like I mean, they missed on a top pick like that, and they drafted and signed well enough that they could overcome that kind
They
of.
went out and got Lattimore too. Now he's been banged up for them, hasn't played a lot, but that's another guy they didn't have.
Yeah.
And I bring up Washington as a source of hope. Like, it doesn't have to be 5 years.
It can happen.
No.
If you do well and you make some really good personnel moves, it can happen quickly.
Yeah, Mike, your guard that you're talking about earlier, Nick Allegretti, was the sign from the Chiefs this past season by Washington. He's their starting left guard. He makes all their line calls and stuff like that. And he's, again, just another one of those like
identified guys.
functional
that,
starting guards in the league that they're not paying a ton, but
Which you got Chukwuekorafor, who decided to walk away from your team.
Which I think that sounds kind of like, Paul, what you've been pitching. Maybe Vrabel does this year, that he gets rid of some guys
100%.
and then he makes some of these kind of signings where it's not overwhelming, but solid
You
guys
need
who are
those
going to come
guys.
in
You
and
need
actually
those
contribute.
And
guys.
I think there are going to be a handful of players, let's call it maybe 3, that would surprise the 4 of us right now will not be here next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think any trade bait with any of these guys? Like when Evan was talking about Vrabel and people going down to the Senior Bowl and starting to lay the foundation of.
Some of those guys will, like they might, like Kyle Duggar to me is trade bait. Like, he just got a big contract, so maybe you don't want to just release him.
Yeah.
Now, if Vrabel says, no,
We'll get him back.
Duggar's
on
going to be
track.
fine. He had that ankle bothered him last.
Yeah.
Then I'm on board with that too, because I still think Kyle Duggar's a good player.
Yeah.
I'm not looking to run him out of town, but I can understand if they're looking to get rid of Tavai, or Duggar, or Peppers, or Godchaux. Like, you got to replace some of these guys too.
Yeah.
Kendrick Bourne. I think there are people that are under contract that people would be surprised to find out, oh wow, they let him
Yeah.
go, huh? I think that's going to happen. I can't tell you who they are.
Yeah. James in Brighton, UK, loved your chat with Vrabel the other day, and he's definitely grown on me with his banter and football intellect, and I do feel he's going to shake things up. But more importantly, as part of that shakeup, does Vrabel have his sights set on Matt Smith's No Socks title? After his introduction and when he was sat with you guys, I couldn't help but notice the trouser to skin ratio was definitely more fleshy than I expected, and I think Matt should be concerned that Vrabel is coming for his moniker. He did have socks though.
Yeah.
He did.
They were
Ankles-
like
ankle
little
socks?
socklets or whatever they call those.
Anklets.
Anklets.
I don't know.
I like those.
But you couldn't see him. He
that's a
he
girl
was
thing.
showing off a lot of
Anklets?
leg.
Yeah, they're like bracelets,
Um,
but for your ankle.
I did notice that.
I
yeah.
did
But he
notice
had
it, too.
socks on.
That's an ankle bracelet.
It's called an ankle.
I didn't have fleshy.
He did have socks
bingo
on.
card. Yeah.
His foot was like right in my face when he sat down.
It's a giant.
He
What are you
takes up a
gonna
lot
do?
of space.
Well, and
does.
then he crossed his legs, and his foot was like, whoa.
No, somebody.
That's awfully close.
Somebody
Mike.
makes you guys look small. Yeah.
He's 6'4",
I heard somebody say, like, he's listed at 6'4", but he does seem bigger than 6'4".
Yeah.
He's just bigger.
Yeah.
Well,
it's like Drake doesn't seem as big as Vrabel does. And
Right.
they're probably in the same universe of at least height-wise, but
Well, the
some
weight
guys.
is
Yeah, no.
probably a 50-pound difference.
Yeah. I feel like that's I was interviewing some of our former players that overlapped with Vrabel in Tennessee for a piece, and a lot of those guys just called him really authentic. And then they're like, there's something about a guy that when he stands up at the front of the room and he's telling you that you have to, go through hell to come out the other side a winner, but he's clearly done it because he looks the part and he can put up I guess he likes to put up the touchdowns, the catches. He likes to brag about how he played both sides of the ball and
10 for 10?
played tight end and was 10 for 10 and all that kind of stuff. So Logan Ryan said that they used to find his lowlights and put those up on the screen because he used to pick on them for their lowlights. So they'd find his missed tackles and stuff like that and put those up. But that was. You hear that a lot, like authentic, because he played, he can walk the walk, and he can talk the talk.
He was authentic with us. It felt, it just felt conversational.
He's very approachable.
Yeah.
Did you get no food today, Freddie?
I did. I don't know where it is. Matt's giving me the palms up. Yeah.
Should be here any minute.
Okay, that's all right. That's fine. I know you're doing your best back there.
It's your fault.
He's making sandwiches.
Joe writes in, this may be one of Fred's. It's not a Super Bowl rematch, semantic arguments, but last year wasn't year one of a rebuild. This year isn't year one of a rebuild either.
I agree.
The rebuild, oh, shoot, what did I just do?
I agree with this premise.
The rebuild window closed with Bill. We need to stop the RE. We're just a bad team trying to build something.
Yeah.
Switching gears. If you're continuing the newsletter throughout the off-season, which we are, I have an off-season suggestion. Fred's Rules for Life, a random show topic that Fred has a Fred amount of rules for. One example might be zip-ups. You can quarter zip or full zip, but no three-quarter or half zips. Stains are optional, but encouraged. Some others might include how to order steak and which hats are allowed.
That's a good start.
We could do
That's
that.
a good start.
Rules for living.
Would be a good topic.
Maybe a good coffee table book.
Fred's
for you.
Rules for Living.
Yeah.
Right after his gambling parlance book.
Volume 1.
Picking winners.
Let's see. Andrew in L.A. Has one for Evan. He says, there is an app that will simultaneously post on multiple applications. It's called WPHF, pronounced woof.
I've heard of this.
It's currently in the beta stages.
Yeah,
it comes from a company in Pennsylvania. Looks like the next big thing.
So
Let me know when
so
it's in
it's
the
great.
alpha stage. Okay.
So it's great. You're trying to simplify your social media content.
Can't spell it.
So you need another one.
And you
Oh,
also
you
can't
need
spell
another
it.
app
Right,
to
right.
do that.
Oh, yeah.
Does it post to MySpace?
Yeah.
MySpace
I'll
is coming back, I heard.
I've heard of this though. I've heard of woof.
Not surprisingly, I have.
Yeah. Let's see what
I'm
happens.
trying to pull back my social media presence, but
Yeah, I'm looking to cut it back, not expand it.
Jack in Inaba writes, best donut by far is the plain cake donut. Only the plain cake donut, fresh from the hot oil vat, goes perfectly with freshly squeezed apple cider on a crisp October morning at the cider mill in Dexter, Michigan, near Ann Arbor.
That's
Don't undervalue the
specific.
basics.
A plain donut.
I have to agree with this because there's a place, Country Kitchen in Walpole. You guys have probably been there, I'm guessing. A big,
No.
like a small
No.
local donut shop, but
No.
they have excellent, just made, plain donut, but kind of had a little crunch to it, like it's well cooked.
You ever notice like people from Sharon, they so overrate all the places
Oh, yeah.
in Sharon.
Because they
Pizza.
live in a
Crescent
bubble.
Ridge.
And
They live in a
donuts.
bubble.
Like
Wardsbury Farm.
It's really
Town
just
Spa.
oh, you got to go to Town Spa.
Don't loop me into that one.
I got better pizza.
The other
than
one is,
Microwave, right?
The creamery that they have there.
Crescent Ridge.
Overrated.
Yeah.
The most bland ice cream I've ever had.
Aw.
It's ice cream. Put some sugar in it.
Well, that's my thoughts
Portions
on,
are large.
That's my thoughts on the plain donut.
I'm so glad you
like,
feel this way because
Yeah, you
I
need
feel
it.
plain donut.
'cause
How can you have your favorite
I-
donut be a plain
No, but
donut?
if you want to have you have a cinnamon donut with the apple cider.
Yes.
I like
Yeah.
that too. I mean, I live about a half mile from Crescent Ridge, so I'm not gonna knock it. But still, ice cream smuggler,
Best
East Dennis,
ever.
Mass.
Best
That's
ever.
my boo.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
the one. You
He's
get
not
there.
as bad, but when you got when I'm out at practice,
That's people that grew up
we
there.
have Barth and Aaron who are two Sharon, to their core. Oh, is that town spa yesterday? Like I don't care. Like go eat some real pizza. Like get out of your bubble.
You are so mean,
and go eat
Alex.
some real pizza. Like
I was just like, Evan was mean again to me.
Stop watching
trying to
college
live my
football and go
life.
find some pizza.
I like ice cream and college football, and he just won't leave me alone.
Mark writes in, with the hiring of Mike Vrabel this week and with the way he has presented himself, described his vision for the future, explained requirements that will be non-negotiable, and pointed out the things that will need to be eradicated from our once proud franchise for it to be successful, it has all left me feeling genuinely optimistic about what comes next and that he has that unmeasurable talent that some people have to convince anyone that they are capable of great things. How do you view his opening gambit?
I think it's like your thing, Fred, where I think when we drafted Drake May, you're like, we have hope.
Yeah.
Like I kind of feel like we have hope at the coaching position now. I didn't feel that way.
I think that's very accurate.
Hope.
I think you're going to go into games this year feeling like the team is prepared.
We're going to get competent coaching, if not more. At least we're going to get competent coaching.
Yeah,
And we're not going to get the walk it back too.
And
That's-
I hate.
The nerds are on him. But
I don't.
That's it.
So, oh really?
Oh, a little bit. Yeah.
I'm interested in that. I want to hear more about that.
I will talk.
I'm not telling you that. I think you're right. You're not going to get the walk it back.
But you're going to get criticism for what he said, and he's
Correct.
not going to walk it
He's
back.
not afraid to say stuff.
Yeah.
He'll just stand by it
Yeah.
and be strong in his convictions, and he won't walk it back.
Yeah.
Because do you ever watch any of the clips of some of the stuff that he's
Little
done?
bit. Yeah, sure.
There's some good
Yep.
stuff there.
Yeah. Losing sucks, that one where we got
Oh, and,
upset.
but like taking rocket shots at the which is great. Keep
Yeah.
everybody on their toes. I have
Yeah.
no problem with that, and I have no doubt that I'll be in the crosshairs at least once.
Yeah.
That's part of the gig. I mean, you gotta learn to deal with
Oh,
that. But
go nice.
I could see him saying things on Sundays that should be walked back on Mondays, but he won't do it.
Yeah. Respect.
Tony,
interested in this,
before
nerd
everyone
thing, though.
goes crazy about this Woof app, he says it's a fake. It's from The
Oh.
Office.
Oh,
See, you know what? When they said that, I was like, "It sounds familiar," and now I've put it
Thanks,
together.
Tony.
But
Yeah.
please,
Saving
more
us.
Deuce talking about how he likes glazed sticks. The best donut
Chocolate
is a
ones.
chocolate glaze dipped in your coffee.
Honey
Fred, do you have any coffee takes? Black is the only way to drink it, correct? Well, this is where I'm going to disappoint you. I don't love coffee. I drink it every day, but I have coffee with my cream and sugar,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like I have the full cream and sugar,
Yeah.
because I don't necessarily love the taste of coffee. So I'm going to disappoint you coffee lovers out there.
You're a Celsius guy.
Yeah.
I like Celsius.
Yeah.
You just
Not
wait.
too much of it's not good for you. I mean,
Fahrenheit.
physically, it's not
Yeah.
good for you.
Kelvin.
You're not like Michael
More
Rundy.
into Kelvin.
Yeah.
What's that?
Nothing.
Who you need a little kick in the pants in the morning? Is that what the coffee's just for? It's like
Yeah, I have
just
one coffee a day. Now, granted, it's an extra large from Dunkin' Donuts, but I have one a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
I like coffee.
Paul, do you drink coffee?
I don't do
No.
coffee.
You don't drink coffee.
I just do my
It's the
diet.
DP.
Diet Pepsi.
Yeah.
DP through and
It's
through.
natural
Are you a coffee?
energy.
You're a Starbucks
Everybody,
guy, right?
yeah.
Evan is
everybody-
addicted.
yeah.
Evan is like, I mean, Evan's been an example for me of like, we're on the road and he's like, I need to find
I need Starbucks.
because
Yeah.
if I don't get that level of caffeine in me, Evan's gonna be a
When
mess.
you
really
first
true.
started, I immediately texted my wife. I go, "Oh, the new guy's going to be good with you. He's looking for Starbucks all the time."
And it's just it's bad because Starbucks, like once you get hooked on a certain type of
Yeah.
coffee,
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
like
yeah.
you can't break
No.
off. So like when we go on the road and I have to get like something else that's not Starbucks, it just doesn't hit.
No.
The
See,
same.
I'll drink Starbucks, but it's strong.
It
It's
is.
strong.
That's
I,
what-
it is.
I really need a lot
Yeah.
of sugar in my
That
Starbucks.
well, that's what makes it hard is
Yeah.
because it has such a high caffeine count that if you go to someplace else, you're not getting the same amount of caffeine,
get a
and it
headache.
just doesn't hit.
Now, I will say about coffee, decaffeinated coffee,
Give 'em a
right out. It's not coffee. It doesn't taste like coffee. It's terrible. So I have no use for decaffeinated coffee.
So you thought you weren't going to have coffee takes?
I did. I had a
There
coffee
you are.
take.
You had a
There you
coffee
go.
take.
Yeah, go.
Spee in Fresno, don't get me wrong. I love the donut talk, but are there really any bad donuts? Are those of you named
Yeah,
Fred
plain.
really so grossed out by Boston cream? I don't like Boston cream. I'm not
Jelly.
grossed
I'm
out.
not a big jelly fan.
I like
either.
jelly.
Same
Gel,
way.
but it always drips on me, like everything else. I think the land of donuts is generally a delicious place to be. Perhaps plains can be dry, but that's what coffee is for.
Yeah, maybe that's why I don't like the plain donut. I don't drink coffee.
Yeah, you got to have that hot liquid to wash
Maybe
it out
that's
of your
why.
mouth.
It's too
Yeah.
thick.
I'm not a jelly guy either.
My
like
dad
jelly
loves
donuts.
jelly donuts. I'll eat any kind of donut. Though.
Like, why are you mixing that flavor with sugar,
Jelly.
like in sweet,
Just a
right?
big
Like it
glob
just-
of jelly in the
no.
middle.
Like people that put it like.
Do you
in
not like
cake.
jelly donuts either?
Ugh.
Not my favorite.
Like
Yeah.
if you're putting like jam like in between like the layers of the cake or whatever they do when they do that, like no, out, hard out.
Let's see.
Nice guy.
It's just the presentation of the
food's here.
sandwich.
Food's here.
We're gonna present the colors.
Little peel behind the curtain for you.
Simon in New Hampshire, have we lost a soldier? Where is our resident new generation vibe knower, Alex?
Oh yeah, she's at a
She's
wedding
at
in
a
a
wedding
third
out of
world
the
nation.
country.
In
Yeah.
the Galapagos.
Yeah.
or something,
Guatemala,
I think.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like
Same
that.
part
know
of
where
the
that is.
world, right?
He says, we need an edge, in my opinion. Now that it could be possible that Carter is gone in the top 3, is there any possible free agent edges, or do you think we try to acquire that position later in the draft?
I think Josh Sweat is the guy that
Yeah.
a lot of
There are
people
a
at the
couple.
top of the list.
There are a
But
couple out there. Josh Sweat's probably the biggest name.
Josh Sweat?
So
Yes.
would you guys be in favor of
Baron Browning, maybe.
sinking significant resources into a free agent at that spot?
Yeah, I would.
I'd be okay with it, but I don't really love any. Like none of the guys. I'm like, oh boy, I gotta get him. It's tough. I think it's a huge need for the team, and not just in the draft. I think the draft is pretty good. It seems like there's a lot of edges in the draft. So, maybe you get a developmental guy there, but I think they probably would need to get somebody in free agency.
Yeah.
I mentioned Baron Browning just as a guy. I don't,
Yeah, I just look
It's
at
fine,
like
but
how
schematically kind of
like
fits.
Judon is like one of the few guys that actually worked from that 21 class, and like
Yeah.
if you can get somebody that can really make an impact like that right away, I think it would go a long way.
Bring back Judon, low money too.
No. Designing for a small space? At Bob's Discount Furniture, you don't have to sacrifice style or storage when working with a small footprint. Not only does Bob's have feature-packed, small space-friendly pieces for every room, taste, and square footage, but they're also budget-friendly. Now that's multitasking. So stop in and stock up at Bob's Discount Furniture, the official furniture store of the New England Patriots. My food's finally here. Going to eat it. Going to come back, get to more calls and emails here in Patriots Unfiltered.
Isn't it time to get exactly what you want? Welcome to Red Hot Deal Days from Verizon, where you get your pick of our best deals. Like My Plan, where you can pick the perks you want and save on every one. For limited time, bring your own phones to a Verizon store and you can get My Plan for our best price ever. Get exactly what you want in your phone plan and only pay for what you need. Bring your phones to your Verizon store today and get My Plan. These deals won't last. It's your Verizon.
With FedEx One Rate, you can ship to your student for a simple, predictable flat rate. Send a box full of home-baked treats that say, "Your father and I miss you." Or send a box full of instant noodles that says, "Your father and I would like you to stop asking us for money." Either way, one rate fits all. FedEx One Rate. 2-day shipping, one flat rate. Starting at $14.50. Visit FedEx.com/OneRate for details. Exclusions apply.
Hey, Mike, welcome back.
Hey.
Understanding there will probably be a significant amount of overlap. How will your program here differ from the program you played in and then obviously coached against later when Bill was still here?
Yeah, it's going to be all different players, new coaches, some coaches that have remained, and people remember that. Like, there are going to be some things. Like, I'm not Bill, and I'm not Bill Cowher. I'm not anyone other than me, and I've taken those experiences and I've tried to form what I believe is critical to the success of a football team and an organization. But to say what those are going to look like, hopefully just as successful. And our goals will be to win the AFC East, to host home playoff games, and to compete for championships. That's what it's going to take. And what the timeline is, just like we say with injuries, we're not going to put a timeline on an injury, and we're certainly not going to put a timeline on what those will be. But that's going to be the expectations, and we're going to work like crazy. and we're going to compete like crazy. We're going to give the players a plan, and they're going to form an identity on the field and the way that we're going to play and play for each other that they're going to be proud of. And we're not going to, we just want to be good enough to take advantage of bad football. Like, that's where we're going to start. And that's what I've tried to tell all the players is right now, I don't know if we're good enough to take advantage of bad football. I'm not sure. Like, we're undefeated right now, but if we can just work towards taking advantage of bad football and being good enough to when somebody makes a mistake, capitalizing on it, and not being the ones that make the mistakes, and focusing on the little things and the details and helping them do their job better, that's a great place to start.
Welcome back, Mike.
Hey, buddy.
You don't look much different.
Yes, I do.
You mentioned you're not Bill. You had a special and unique relationship with him. What does it mean to you, if anything, to follow in his footsteps in this organization?
Well, I mean, I think it is unique, obviously. Like, let's just be real for a minute and just say, having played for him and, having competing against him, and then also having a friendship with Bill, right, along the way. I think it's special, it's unique having played here, knowing Bill, but again, we have to focus on things that are going to help us win now, help our players, and like I said, galvanize the building and the team and our fan base. So I think that there's also things I'm going to try to explain to the players that there's things that are interesting and there are things that are important. I think me having played for Bill is interesting. I just don't know if it's important to helping our players.
Mike, welcome and congratulations. Hey. You were the hottest name on the coaching cycle this time around. Presumably you had your pick of jobs. So personally, professionally, what really separated this choice among the others?
Well, I think that the ability to have open dialogue with Robert and Jonathan was something that was critical. Elliott and his staff, obviously, what I believe and what everybody else believes is a young, dynamic quarterback. We have some youth on the roster. We have some veteran players that have kind of seen both sides of it and understand, and that will help me and will help our players get back to that success and understand how hard it is. I do think that we're getting a different style of player, a different player to the NFL. One that, sometimes guys played 4 or 5 years in college in the same place under the same coach, and we don't have a whole lot of behavior to change when they got to our league. And I think now with the NIL system that everyone is embracing and I'm all in favor of, but sometimes those players are at a school for 6 months and they may go to another school and with another leadership style and another structure. And so when they get to our league, there's some behavior that may have to change, and we have to be willing to help them change it. And that's okay. Like, this is not an indictment on the college football system. This is just, you could go back and get a player from Alabama or Ohio State or Notre Dame where they had been there for 4 or 5 years. Maybe they redshirted, and there was a consistent program, and you felt comfortable adding that player. Now, it's like hard to keep track of where they went to school. And so that's not easy, but we're willing to help those players that need to have some of those things changed and the commitment to the team, like we're willing to do that.
Hey, Mike, back middle here.
Hey.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Looking forward to all our future news conferences together.
There's going to be more?
I think so. I think the league makes you do a few of them. I hear they're fun, too. Just curious, one thing you've learned in your first experience from being a head coach that you want to make sure you apply to your second time around?
I think there's so much. I think just this connection piece, man, getting to know these players. And we're going to put so many points of contact around our players that I understand that I'm going to have a different relationship with some players than I do others. Right? I'm going to have a relationship with every single one of them, But then there's going to be other ones that may not be as strong, but they're going to be with the position coach. And, we're not going to have a whole lot of rules. We're going to start with being on time and being respectful, and being able to communicate like anybody else would outside this building. If you were late for an appointment, if you had something going on, that we're going to have people that are around the players for them to be able to trust and say, hey, I've got this going on. And I've tried to do this in Tennessee, that if somebody walks in the door at 7:45 and they just, there's something on their face that they're wearing something, they're holding on to something, that something's not right, I would rather give that player 30 minutes or 45 minutes, however much amount of time that he needs to take care of a situation, than the 7 hours that he's going to waste wearing it through the day. And I want to provide as many points of contact with the players so that they feel comfortable. And if that's coming to me, great. If that's coming to Elliot, great. If that's coming to our strength coach, or that's coming to our position coach, whoever that may be, I want them to have as many relationships in the building that they feel comfortable saying that, something's not right, or I need to communicate, or I'm going to be 15 minutes late, whatever it is. So I think that that's critical, that we teach them some of those things, that, there's more people that they impact than just themselves.
And now, great moments in history.
Manny's in Manchester, New Hampshire. What's up, Manny?
Manchester.
I was listening to yesterday's podcast. At one point in time, Paul called Bill a mediocre coach.
Oh, no. No, I did not. Stop it.
Yes, you did.
Stop it. You're embarrassing yourself.
I just listened to it today. But anyway.
I did not call Bill a mediocre coach. I'm sorry. It was taken out of context. That's like Fred said that he doesn't think that Mac Jones is very good. That's not what he meant. It was something about something different. I've never thought of Bill as a mediocre coach, and I've never said that he's a mediocre coach. Sorry. I might have said I might have said something like this, if you want to listen. He's had 8+ years without Tom Brady as his quarterback, and in those years he's been a mediocre coach.
That's what you said.
That's what I said.
I remember that.
So that's what I was referring to. It's like he's calling him a mediocre coach then.
Without Tom Brady.
Very, very important qualifier there, Manny.
Well, I think then everybody's a mediocre coach because they don't have Tom Brady then. But anyway.
Andy Reid's not a mediocre coach.
It's a good point, caller.
That's another great moment from
All right, back here on Patriots Unfiltered.
Right off the top rope.
I was just waiting to chime in at the end there. 855-PATS-500 is the TPX hotline. Podcast at patriots.com is the email address. A lot of good talk today. Little of it about football. No, I'm only kidding. We're doing everything today. It's an off season. Mo in Vermont and New York says, tell Fred to quit the Celsius. Read the nutritional facts on the side. It has arsenic in it. So, yeah, too much makes you feel sick. No joke.
Bad? Arsenic.
But it also has good stuff in it, right?
There's lead in the paint. Is that bad?
Yeah.
Depends.
Doesn't it always also have like all these good vitamins in it and everything like that?
I've never
Don't let them, if you
partaken.
like it, Fred, don't let them don't let them stop you from drinking it.
Matthew says alpha comes before beta testing, Evan, shaking my head.
I thank you. Thank you.
Duh. Paul in Illinois says it took you 2 weeks, but we're finally into some real off-season talking shows.
Oh, you're welcome.
Enough of these serious, practical discussions of why Mayo was fired, or who will be the new coach, or who will Vrabel's coordinators be. We're on to donuts and coffee, Jaws, Star Wars, and the like.
Oh.
When is the next
We'll take
accent
Jaws.
off?
What do you got? We'll take Jaws talk.
Yeah. We might do a karaoke contest here.
I've been warming up.
Yeah.
I'm not.
You're involved.
Fred, I can't sing.
You have a song that you could sing. You know
Like
you
a
do.
virgin.
Yeah, an Earth, Wind, and Fire song or something like that. Yeah.
Like it.
So
Can't do it. You do not want to hear me sing.
no, that's why we want to hear you sing. You know.
Let's groove tonight.
There you go.
Share the spice of life.
Marco from Mexico writes in, something that's been intriguing me lately since I heard that McDaniels is being mentioned as candidate for OC. In terms of reputation, do you think that the fact McDaniels currently has a bad reputation to join New England because Josh is the OC? I think that could be an issue, but I would like to know what you guys think.
I mean, maybe, but I would say any of those players that would be like that, you probably don't want anyway.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but I don't necessarily think that's the deciding factor over money.
Yeah.
I think if you want to give guys money, they're going to come.
Yeah.
I also think that people can separate that he's not a head coach here, right? He's going to be the offensive coordinator, and as an offensive coordinator, his resume speaks for itself of how he's, been able to use guys and adapt and morph into different offenses based off his personnel. So if you're an offensive player, I would say that, okay, this guy's going to know how to use me. He's going to, figure out ways to get me the ball if you're a receiver, and Vrabel will take care of the culture.
I mean, like, just as an example, Mike, just to come back at you, because I don't argue with you nearly enough.
No, you don't. We need to stop that.
Let's go.
Right.
We
That's
need
what
to
I'm
get
saying.
What do you
more
want?
arguments.
Paul?
Like,
What do you got to say?
Like, I would just say, for an argument's sake, and I have no idea how this individual feels about Josh McDaniels, but like if Jacoby Myers were a free agent and he said, well, I'm not going to New England because Josh McDaniels is there. I played for him in Vegas and it was terrible.
Yeah.
Like, that's not like the wrong guy.
No, we played with him here too, right?
No, I just brought him up as an example of a guy in the Raiders.
Right.
Play along.
Well, I think that's ridiculous. No,
It's a hypothetical.
Sorry, I'm trying to argue with you. No, I get it, but I think some of the reasons that guys weren't happy with Josh McDaniels and Vegas might have been stupid, and the fact that they're not going to
might have been on the players, absolutely.
They're not going to really be able
could have
to
been on the coach.
cut it here even under a Mike Vrabel regime, much less Josh is running it all. So I mean,
just wouldn't shut myself off to all players who think that Josh McDaniels didn't do well.
Yeah,
because it's not all the players' fault. That's all. I'm saying.
That's fair. But still, I think ultimately it's Mike Vrabel's team, and Josh's resume speaks for itself. And if guys are like, well, I mean, it was great after we left, we were smoking cigars and stuff, and I like that better. Like whatever, but. Yeah.
How'd that work out?
He still has that that old Patriots fan thing. If that's what they're interested in. Like that. How'd that work out?
Yeah.
We don't want
how many Super Bowls did that get him?
I'm with Mike on this.
Really good. We like smoking. We like smoking cigars. We like smoking cigars after championships.
We're 16 and 35 on our last 3 years, but we'd love to smoke a cigar at some point, but we don't get to do that anymore.
I know. Well, I thought Mike Lombardi made a great point about that as well, so I'll stick on
smoking
that side
cigars?
of the street. Yeah, well, he said no.
Somebody brought the guy.
Somebody brought it up, and he was like, I mean, they were smoking cigars in there. What kind of culture do they have? That's not the Patriot way. He did a whole thing. So that's why I brought it up for Paul's benefit. I knew he would like it.
My larger point would just be don't close yourself off to people, for those kinds of reasons, superficial reasons.
That's fine. I mean, and how many guys in Vegas do you really want anyway? Like, I mean, is it which guys
Max
would you
Crosby.
really be like?
Like, I don't think this is a big deal because I think in free agency it comes down to money.
Yeah.
This isn't about Raiders. It's not about ex-Raiders. It's about people around the league that talk and they're like, this guy's a colossal a-hole.
Yeah.
You don't want to play for him. Like,
Well,
it doesn't have to be a Raider.
Did it hurt him after Denver? Like, that's a question. I mean, I'm not saying I say yes or no. I just because he already kind of had that experience where he came in and had and
But
people were
coming
kind of
back to
against
New
him
England
and didn't like it
in the midst of a dynasty.
Yeah.
You don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
Now I have my choice if I want to win games. I don't have to go there if I want to win games.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No,
So
I
it's
was just asking the
different.
question.
And again, I don't know. I think the emailer is probably worried about something that's maybe a little far-fetched because I think if T. Higgins wants to sign with New England, it's going to cost you a lot of money. It's not going to cost you any more money, I don't think, because Josh McDaniels is here. It's going to you're going to have to outbid other teams because people are going to be interested in T. Higgins. For the Chargers, by the way, is one of those teams now. You're going to be hard-pressed to outbid the Chargers because that's a better team right now with a coach that is already established a playoff level roster. That's going to be hard.
Yeah, I think those players, I mean, it's money at the top. Then it's a little Vrabel. It's a little Drake May.
Right.
Josh is part of this too.
Right.
Maybe if you didn't have the greatest impression of Josh or you've heard things that you're necessarily maybe worried about, you got to take all of it in.
All right, a couple more emails before we get to picks. L says, I'm a pretty big fan of Evan's ball knowing, but wow, each food take is somehow worse than the last.
What? You had a bad food take?
You have a bad food take today?
And then Dan in Virginia,
loves Jersey
Michigan.
Mike's.
Once again, the boss man has it right with his opinion about decaffeinated coffee. it's like non-alcoholic beer. What's the point?
Yeah.
Oh, I totally agree with the non-alcoholic beer.
I don't even understand non-alcoholic beer.
No.
That's probably
what is the
good
point?
I just don't find.
Because I have some apple juice or something.
Yeah.
I mean,
have some water.
It's not tasty enough.
Yeah.
Like some people
I've never
really
had a
love.
Have you ever tasted a non-alcoholic? I've never even tasted a non-alcoholic.
Yeah, it tastes the same.
Does it?
But
No.
it kind of tastes the same.
O'Doul's.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure
They
about
sell a lot of
some
O'Doul's.
Some of the good ones are. O'Doul's is a good one.
O'Doul's to me tastes just like regular beer. I'm not a huge beer.
Right,
I
you
mean,
wanna
I know-
drink it,
I
you're
know I
getting-
play a
you're
role
drinking
in
it
the
to
show.
get-
I'm not
yeah.
really a huge beer drinker, but
what?
like the taste. Like, do you love the taste of beer?
Some beer I do.
A lot of people do.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you that you're
Not
you're,
all
you're
beer.
wrong
Like
or weird.
IPAs, another take out. It's not
I
beer.
like the
IPA is for people who don't like beer.
I actually don't
I like
really
that
love the
taste.
taste of beer.
I don't either.
Yeah, I mean, I drink it. Like, I like Sam Adams. Like, if I had to pick a beer, but I'm not like a big beer guy.
But some people like. I have friends that literally drink beer like
Oh,
you
yeah.
can't
Oh,
like
I
you
know.
can't get them enough. Like they just love beer, and I'm just like it doesn't really taste that good to me. I drink it because it's fun.
Those
Like
type
you
of
get a
people
little.
annoy me.
Have you,
I don't get,
have you ever
like,
had mead?
mead? No.
This is the 1600s.
Those type of people annoy me. The,
mutton.
the beer people that love beer, like they like okay.
I love
No, you
beer.
don't.
Yeah.
You just
No.
love the
Well,
idea.
Lately,
You love getting drunk.
I've been
Right,
kind of
right.
off beer lately because it's so filling now for me.
Especially the IPAs. That's I
Yeah.
mean, those things are like eating a loaf of bread.
That's why like High Noons and all the
That's
seltzers is
that's
the
one
best
thing
that's
I
ever
learned from
happened.
a very competent waiter. You know, people tend to think, oh, you pour beer down the side so that it doesn't get a lot of
Oh,
head.
yeah.
That's the wrong way to pour beer because it's keeping in all the whatever they call it, and it makes you more filled.
Oxygen.
Pour it right down the middle so it releases all the nitrogen or whatever it is.
Okay.
And then,
It's oxygen.
it's better for you don't get as filled as quickly.
I feel like Paul does. Like there are certain
And
nights
people are typing
where a
away now
beer
'cause
just
they-
is perfect. You know, I would say like 1 p.m. game here. We do our thing, watch the game. And I get home at whatever it is, watching the night game. And like some days there's like, man, there's nothing better than just the nice beer. Worked hard today, watching the games. Same with sodas. Like
Well,
sometimes I just
I'll
like
tell
gotta
you.
have a soda. Like
down in Seward Harbor,
Yeah.
go down to the Clam Shack.
Sure.
Nice, warm, sunny day.
Oh.
Go down to
Ice
the
cold
Clam
beer and
Yes.
steamers.
Yes.
Oh, there's nothing better.
I
Sounds
totally
like
Oh,
Matt
beer and
Smith.
steamers is the best.
looking out at the ocean with your soulmate. It's
Yeah.
perfect.
Whether or not I have my soulmate,
Did you you didn't read the stuff yet, did you?
What?
On the newsletter?
No,
Okay.
not yet. Oh, I
I got a good one for you.
Oh,
all right. It's that time.
Oh, you gonna read the call or something?
I'll get to the callers after.
Hang on.
We'll hurry.
Hang on.
All right, we have 4 games and a college game to talk about.
Yeah. So last week, 3-way tie. Mike, Alex, Paul, 5-1.
Oh.
Evan, 4-2, and Fred, 3-3.
Yeah.
You know, Fred's he likes to push the envelope. And,
Yeah,
you
just
know,
taking some swings.
take some swings. None of them hit. With the spread, same 3. Mike, Alex, Paul, 4-2. Fred and Evan, 2-4.
Ooh,
That's just poor to me.
Evan like retired after
not
he
good.
won the
Oh, yeah,
title.
no,
he was like, he's mailing
Not
it
good.
out.
We could pick the 4 games and then we'll do the college.
Did I have a lock last week?
You did, but it was college. You
Oh.
won your lock.
I won my
There
lock.
you go.
That was Ohio State.
Your lock was Ohio State, and they were -6. They won by 14, I think.
Yeah. So, you know, I have to be very diligent with my locks because a lot of people depend on
So yeah, and just to let everybody know, Mike and
mortgages.
Alex went 2-0, and the rest of us went 1-1, and that was the same with the spread and overall.
That's because I keep picking against Notre Dame.
that. All right.
I always pick up in the postseason. That's when I'm at my best.
We
Like I
should've won
rise.
that one.
Okay, so we'll do the NFL games first, and then the bonus pick will be Monday night's national championship. We'll start with Saturday, 4:30, ESPN, ABC, ESPN Plus, ESPN Deportes. The 10-7 Texans against the 15-2 Chiefs.
So, do you think there's a reason why they continue to put Houston in the 4:30 Saturday slot?
Right,
Like,
it's
it's
like
not
every
a
game
small
they've ever
market.
played. Yeah, yeah.
Like, why all their playoff
Because they
games?
want to just burn it off because
got
they know
really
no one wants to
4:30.
watch them anyway.
So, Kansas City by 8.5.
Wow.
That's a big number.
It's a big number, Mike.
Yeah,
it is a big number.
I'm gonna take Kansas City, and I know they haven't really done a great job covering this year, but I'm gonna have them cover this one. I think. I have a hard time believing that Houston's going to mount much. Although I was really surprised with how they played last week. That was the one game I think I lost was this one. So I think we all might have been on the Chargers for that one.
We're all on the lack.
But I don't think they got it 2 weeks in a row on the road in Kansas City. I'm going to take the Chiefs. I'll lay the points.
Yeah, I don't have Alex's picks, so we'll have to get those at another time. Evan?
I'm going to go with the Chiefs, but I'm going to take the Texans to cover the spread because I think that Texans pass rush last week was just unstoppable, and the Chiefs' offensive line, especially their tackle play, has been an issue for them all season long, and I do think that the Chiefs have to pull this one out late like they have all season. But
I would love this. I hope it's like this.
I think there is a chance, though, that a lot of these games, like the nice wild card weekend teams that won last week, they go up against the big boys this week and get smoked.
Could happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with Evan. I think Kansas City wins the game, and I don't think it'll necessarily be in doubt in the fourth quarter, but I'll take the points.
Do we have a health report? Like any team missing any notable people?
Not that
I don't believe so.
Kansas City seems like they're as healthy as they've been all year.
Well, I'm going to go with the Chiefs both ways. You can talk about the Texans defense all you want, but the Chiefs defense is why they're 15-2
Del
this
Rio?
year. It's Del Rio.
Okay.
Not anymore, but but I am going to take the Chiefs to cover and get one step closer to that three-peat, which cannot happen.
Not on my watch.
Cannot happen.
Is that the thing that you least want to happen? Like Buffalo winning would kill you.
I would say yes.
You know,
for me, yes.
Kansas City.
Anyone but KC.
So the question is,
Like,
would I
what's the
rather
thing that
have
you
Buffalo win a
don't-
Super Bowl or the Chiefs three-peat?
Or Baltimore. Like, you hate a lot of teams.
Baltimore,
let's call it.
I could be all right with them.
Okay.
but
So the thing that you'd least like to happen would
I
be
think Buffalo winning.
Buffalo winning.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
It's
Wow.
again,
I'm
it's
Kansas
against the laws of nature.
I think it's the Mafia, right? Like the Mafia sets
Oh,
it
then they
apart
would
for
have
me.
something to say. Well, we won one.
Yeah, I
I
can't
think I'd
do
be
it.
all right with any of these 8 teams. I probably would least like to see Philadelphia win.
Because you don't care as much as I do.
I'm pulling for Baltimore. I want them. I want Lamar to get his
I think it'd
Super
be
Bowl.
cool if like Detroit won it. Like,
But
Detroit's
that'd
never
be cool.
good.
I think I'm
Like,
rooting
I
for-
don't have the hatred in my heart that you guys do.
That
for
would
a
be
lot
my
of
second.
stuff.
Would be Detroit.
I love to hate watch.
Detroit, Baltimore in the Super Bowl would be.
All right, Saturday night, 8:00, Fox Deportes, the 12-5 Commanders at the 15-2 Lions.
Detroit by 9.5.
Big spreads.
Big
Wowzers.
spreads.
That is a big one.
Big spreads.
I got to go.
What do the Sharps
I
know?
got to go with Detroit at home. But, you know, I think there's something special in Washington. I think they'll go in, they'll play loose. And, you know, I think Detroit's defense has had some issues. So I'll pick Washington to cover that one. I think they kind of hang with them and put up some points, but I think Detroit will win the game. I don't like either of these first two games. Like, Sunday's the game. Sunday's the games to watch. Like, these two games, I don't know. I hope they're competitive and watchable, but.
I'm going to go Detroit. I think this is one of those games where nice little win for the Commanders on Wild Card weekend, but then you go up against a big boy like the Lions and get smoked in the divisional round.
I'm with Evan again. I think the same way. I feel Washington's defense will not be able to really hold up against the Lions' attack.
Yeah,
And I think
9.5. They're trying to bring in the Washington money. It's not coming. Lions both ways, playoff points. So now we move to Sunday.
to look back at my glossary. I forget what playoff points meant.
Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on NBC, Peacock, Telemundo, and Universo. The 10-7 Rams are at the 14-3 Eagles.
Philly by 6.
Ooh, man! Wow, playoff points.
I think I'm trying to pick this one with my head because my heart loves what the Rams have done on defense, and I just like watching them. I think they're just aggressive, and it's but you could say the same thing about the Eagles' defense too, aggressive and fun to watch. But you know, big injury with Nakobe Dean. I'll take Philly to win, but I'll take the Rams to keep it close and cover.
I'm taking the upset. I'm taking the Rams in this game. The Eagles' offense just still doesn't seem right outside of Saquon Barkley to me, and I think they're going to have to score some points in this game to win, and I'm just not very confident in their ability to do that. And I also think that as great as Fangio is for the Eagles, the going up against a coordinator that kind of does what he does and has a system and all that kind of stuff, that spells to me that Sean McVay is going to have some things cooked up for the Fangio scheme. So I'm taking the Rams.
I like the way he says Fangio.
Fangio.
The fans wave to Vic Fangio as he departs from the stadium.
Fangio.
You see what you did?
I do impressions of what Fred does. I don't even know who that's supposed to be.
I think we all know. I am with Mike on this one. I will take the Eagles to win. I was very impressed with their defense last week, but I'll take the Rams to cover, and I definitely give the Rams a legitimate chance to pull off the upset on the road.
Yeah.
Just a little too much, I think.
I haven't trusted the Eagles all year. They keep winning, but I haven't trusted them. I'm going to say the Rams win this game outright.
I think. I hope you're right.
And I'm going to make the covering of it the lock of the week, not the win, not the outright win. You understand what I'm saying?
I put the asterisk at the appropriate spot.
6.
He's getting 6.
The Rams
plus 6 is his lock of the week.
Is the lock of the week here, folks. So, whatever
you want to make money.
Yeah, if you want to make money,
that mortgage, college fund, whatever you got.
6:30 on Sunday evening on CBS in Paramount Plus. The 12-5 Ravens are at the 13-4 Bills.
Oof, what a game. That's a good one. I'm going to settle in
Oh,
with this
sorry.
one.
Baltimore by 1.5.
This will be a beer game for me, I think. Have a sit back and have a beer. Did you say Baltimore by 1.5?
Baltimore by 1.5.
You heard him right, and you should take a double take.
Wow.
So I thought it was funny.
So what does that mean?
Like the
They're
whole,
getting
like
4?
the FPI index that I always make fun of. So Baltimore is favored by 1, and it says Buffalo 50% chance to win. That's what it keeps putting on the scroll on ESPN.
So this is as close can be, even for the Sharps.
Sharps don't know what to do.
Man, I don't really know what to do. I feel like it's a coin flip kind of game. I know a lot of, like Evan said, a lot of people want to see Lamar get it this year. If not this year, when will Lamar get it? I can't bet against Buffalo at home. I really can't do it. So I'm gonna take Buffalo in the home as the home dog. I think that place is gonna be rocking, and I think this would be a great game back and forth. And I like Josh Allen to make a little bit of a statement and show he has the edge as the MVP this year.
I can't pick this game. It's like picking between.
Yeah. It's a great game.
It's like
it's
picking
a great
between
game.
two
I just hope it
sons.
turns out
I
to
know.
be
I hope it turns right.
It's like 0
I don't know.
degrees,
I just love both these quarterbacks a lot. I think these are the two best quarterbacks in the league outside of Mahomes. Man, I'm gonna lean towards Baltimore. I'm just a little bit more confident in both sides of the ball for them. I just feel like they're a little bit more of a buttoned-up team right now, but I could see this going either way. But I'll take the Ravens.
Yeah, I agree with both of your assessments. I could see a great argument to be made both sides. I'm going to go with Buffalo. A little bit of a heart pick. I'm kind of rooting for Josh Allen. I know Lamar hasn't won either, and I wouldn't be upset if he won because of that. I think greatness sometimes should be recognized for being great, and I think too often, if you don't win it all, you're not that.
Right.
Like Dan Marino's not as good as.
Right.
You know.
Plus, you want to blah Patriots fans.
Well, there's nothing really to block.
Yes,
Like if I wanted to block Patriots fans, it'd be all Kansas City all the time. I'd be rooting for the three-peat.
Right.
Yeah, that's the one that hurts
Isn't that
me.
the biggest blah?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Like it's not. I like Josh Allen and I like Lamar Jackson. And I think that they should be able to win a title. So I'm rooting for those guys to win. I'll probably be rooting for the winner of this game next week, no matter what.
Yeah. I'm rooting for the Bills to lose. And I'm going to take the Ravens to win this game. The window is closed. There's going to be a lot of.
I don't know how I didn't see that coming. I'm ashamed of myself.
There's going to be a lot of red ass in Buffalo after this game.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of red ass.
If they lose, the Buffalo Niagara.
If they lose, I think McDermott's going to be in the
out.
crosshairs because they will not be able to stop the run, and that's going to be on McDermott.
So I'm going to fade the Bills.
I got you.
Is that right?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm going to fade the Bills. I'm going to go with the Ravens to win this game.
Perfectly acceptable.
And they cover, by the way.
Yes.
And they cover.
Okay. They will not win by 1. Yeah.
All right. So now the national championship game. Notre Dame and Ohio State.
Ohio State by 8.5.
Yeah.
Where are they playing this game?
Yeah.
Do not know.
Oh, that's a good question.
They're
Dallas?
playing
No. Where are they playing? I don't know. I don't know where it
Why
is.
don't we know that?
That's weird.
I mean,
Yeah.
you didn't
Is
call
it Dallas?
up?
I think it's Dallas.
It's not on Universo?
At AT&T
It is Dallas?
Dallas. Yeah.
Stadium.
Yeah.
Nope, it's not.
It's not.
Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
Atlanta.
All right.
I, as you guys might have heard, I actually watched all the Ohio State game last week.
He's really proud of himself about that. It's amazing. You watched a football
like
game,
every
Mike.
minute of it. I didn't even go to bed. Well, once he took the fumble back, that's how I was out.
And by the way, we'll go to the 3 calls. We'll go a little longer today, and we'll hit those callers because it's off season. I don't want you to.
Bonus time. I think Notre Dame, nice story, nice wins for them here, getting to this point. But I just think Ohio State looks like a wagon right now, and they got the pieces. So I'm going to take Ohio State, and I'm going to lay the points. I think it's probably going to be like one of these college football games where it's a couple score games.
What did we say the margin was?
8.5.
Oof.
Yeah. I like them by like 10.
I've been picking against Notre Dame the entire
Ohio
playoff.
State both ways?
Yes, please.
Because I've been waiting for the Notre Dame that I grew up with to show up in a big football game. I'm sticking with it. I'm going down with this ship. I think Marcus Freeman's done a great job with Notre Dame. I think he's really rallied that team. If you want a rah-rah culture type of coach, he's your guy. But talent is talent, and I just don't think when you line these two teams up that Notre Dame's talent matches Ohio State's talent. Ohio State's really been the best team in college football talent-wise all year long.
Except when they play Michigan.
They just have had some slip-ups along the way. So I'm going to take the Buckeyes. I'll take them both ways. I think there's just too big of a talent discrepancy here.
Yeah, I think that in watching all these playoff games, by far, I think Ohio State has played the best in all these games. I'll ride them, even though I hate them.
Tamara.
I will continue to take Ohio State. I think Ohio State has just been markedly better than the opposition.
Yeah, I'm tempted to take Notre Dame to win outright. I'll settle on them covering. But I think there's something special going on with Notre Dame.
Yeah,
something special.
Something special going on here.
They've turned a lot of people on to Notre Dame.
But I can't go all the way and say that they're going to win this game outright. But they will cover. They will cover. So I'm not going to make it a lock. I've already made my lock.
So Ohio State to win, Notre Dame to cover? Is that what you said?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. You got that right, Paul. Okay.
Thanks, Kramer.
So those are our picks. But I did say we'll hang on. We're up against the hour, but we have a few callers that have called. I want to reward their patience and their off-season interest. So let's go to Christian in L.A. What's up, Christian?
Hey, you guys. How are you today?
Good.
Sorry it dropped out yesterday, the other call, but must have been where I am here in L.A. and how bad the signal is. So 2 questions for you guys is, 1, 10 losses, a bad draft, and a mediocre free agent signing season. Does that get Vrabel out at 1 and done? That's one question.
Say that again. Say that again.
10 losses, a bad draft. Yeah, we'll see.
And a mediocre free agent class.
Yeah. So in other words, they win 3 more games than they did this year.
No.
One and done.
It
One and
doesn't.
done? By improving by 3 games.
No. He doesn't get canned after 1 year.
That's an okay improvement.
I actually need to see how it.
Yeah,
unfolds.
there has to be fist fights and all kinds of
That's why
stuff
I need
like
to
that.
see how it unfolds. If you got the situation that
No,
happened.
you
this
laugh.
year,
I really mean there has to be locker room, complete locker room, pandemonium. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Second question is.
Oh, you have 2 questions.
If we get D. Higgins, Chris Godwin, first round defensive tackle,
Micah Parsons,
offensive tackle, third round a wide receiver, does that put us possibly in the playoffs?
Playoffs. Do we just go to the playoffs with a good?
Chris Godwin.
Godwin
T. Higgins
plays half the season.
Yeah.
T.
First round
Higgins
defensive
helps you.
tackle.
Who?
Second round offensive tackle.
Is
Third
he
round,
good?
Yeah. I mean, are they any good?
They're great.
Well,
If they hit on all the draft picks, then it can be they could be a playoff team if you
and I think
if you acquire 6 players that immediately help you immensely, you could be good.
And bringing in those middle class guys that are solid players, like we talked earlier about the Commanders. So I think there's a path.
Yeah,
there's a path.
And I think in the NFL, there's a path every year for somebody.
Yep.
Why not you?
Yep.
Especially in the schedule.
Andrew's in
But I mean,
Boston.
there's a team that goes from really bad to really good in 1 year, every year in the NFL.
What's up, Andrew?
Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm kind of interested today in just a slight debrief of last year's wide receiver draft. So I'm wondering, who are you most surprised by, or how did things go versus expectations? And then maybe focus on how we're going to apply that lesson learned to this year's draft.
Yeah. I think my biggest surprise is Polk, the just complete lack of anything from him. I really thought he'd be okay.
Is he talking about the draft class at large?
overall,
like,
yeah,
so,
I think what he said,
Xavier Worthy, Lad McConkey,
Leggett.
Xavier Leggett,
those
Keon
guys.
Coleman.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think most of those guys contributed.
Yeah, I mean, I think Keon Coleman, I've seen probably the most of him, but I mean, it's been a little sporadic. I think he missed some time.
Obviously,
but
McConkey had a huge
McConkey
year.
had a huge
Brock
year.
Bowers,
tight end.
But still,
had a huge year.
I think
record-setting.
Leggett was kind of up and down. He was hurt too.
I don't think he was very good.
Yeah, there's the 550 club, right? Like if you're above 550 as a rookie, that means that you're on to something. So Keon Coleman had just over 556.
Yeah.
Oh.
So him
in the circle.
And Lad McConkey are the other than like Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. and the guys at the top, right? But talking about these,
we left out Harrison, Neighbors, and Thomas.
Yeah, and Adunze. All four of those guys hit over. Xavier Worthy hit over too. So a couple of these guys seem like
a pretty good class.
I mean, the top of the class is one of the best we've seen in a while.
That's what's so frustrating. It's like, why can't they hit on one? Like, I mean, what are the 6 guys that had successful rookie years by that standard? And
I know.
I think the biggest question that I would have is just take the Washington receivers. And Adunze was obviously in his own category a little bit, but like him and McMillan both had decent rookie seasons. McMillan was decent in Tampa Bay.
Yeah. McMillan was better than decent.
And you got the one that didn't do anything. Yeah. So like even just evaluating that program in a vacuum.
You took the third.
Like
Jermaine he was
Cunningham
the third guy.
Yeah.
He only played a more prominent role because McMillan got hurt.
Yeah. So like what were you looking at that said Polk over McMillan? Obviously, Adunze is its own thing, but that in itself, I think, can get you a long way in terms of fixing it.
We took his name in vain a lot today. Boston Cream's on the line. What's up, Boston Cream?
First off, Fred, I find it kind of comical that you like jelly donuts over cream donuts.
I
based
do.
On the fact that you're basically made of jelly.
Good Boston Cream.
Donuts are the second highest selling in the world. So put some respect on my name.
I'm sorry.
What's the biggest? Glazed?
What's sludge?
Just a glazed?
Yeah, behind simple glaze for simple folk.
Mm-hmm.
One last donut thing. There's one thing that connects the human to the Boston Cream donuts, and that's we're both made when cream goes inside of a hole.
See, now that's just poor to me.
We
extended
the show for that.
Now I got to turn my back on you. Here's a couple $1,000s. Now I got to turn my back.
All right, thanks, Boston Cream. That's going to do it for this edition of Patriots Unfiltered. Hope everyone enjoys watching the football games this weekend and National Championship Monday night. We will see you next Tuesday.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.
The world's original podcast.